Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting of Tuesday, April the 7th. At this time, Ms. Calloway, would you call the roll?
Dr. Orth.
Here.
Dr. Leming.
Here.
Mr. Hutson.
Here.
Mr. Chriscoe.
Here.
Mr. Nicosia.
Here.
Ms. Hanson. Mr. Bonniville.
Here.
Thank you. Next, we will have the invocation given by Pastor Jack Smith. So all that are able, if you'd please rise.
Start with the pledge.
Invocation.
Okay. Good evening, Pastor Jack Smith, New Life Ministry. Our gracious Father, thank you for these supervisors of Gloucester County who you have ordained according to Romans 13:1. Tonight they are meeting to discuss the business at hand. I pray for wisdom and discernment in every matter, and I ask you to give them insight on the best way to handle these situations. We pray for Chairman Chriscoe and all of the board of members that they will serve in a manner that reflects your love and authority. In these times of turmoil between so many, we trust this county of Gloucester will grow in unity and prosperity by our faith in you and each other. Your word says that a house divided against itself cannot stand. Therefore, we thank you for our leaders on every level, that they will work together for the good of all of our people. Holy Spirit, continue to impart your wisdom, discernment, and understanding to our supervisors and leaders. Touch their hearts to govern with fairness and love for our citizens. Holy Spirit, help our leaders in government not to yield to temptation, but deliver them from the evil one. You are worthy, O Lord, our God, to receive glory and honor and power. In Jesus' holy name, amen.
Please remain standing for Abingdon Elementary School student Meadow Walker as she does the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Next, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes for January 6th and January 2026. We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Next, we will move to our adoption of the agenda. We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Next, we have approval of the consent agenda. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Next, we have matters presented by the board. Any member wishing to bring something forward tonight? Seeing none, we will move to county administrator items. Ms. Calloway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two items. First is a reminder that the household harmful waste collection is this Saturday. Saturday is Saturday, April 18th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Hayes Convenience Center. The second is I just wanted to recognize everyone who made a very successful Daffodil Festival possible. Staff from Parks, Rec, and Tourism have been working all year to put that event on, and also have been supported by staff from Facilities Management, the Sheriff's Office, Emergency Management, and countless volunteers. The festival was extremely successful. Obviously, we had a little chilly start, and then Sunday we usually see some lower numbers, but obviously we've worked very hard to shift around some strategic entertainment, and Sunday was actually very successful. Also, we brought back the Daffodil Dash 5K this year. Daffodil Show also set a record number of entries, and the new Daffodil Festival mobile app was downloaded over 1,000 times. So we want to remind, Parks, Rec, and Tourism staff wanted to also remind everyone that there's a link on the Daffodil Festival Facebook page where you can submit photos of the event and also do a survey. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Callaway.
Mr. Chairman?
Any questions? Yes, Dr. Leming.
Ms. Callaway, if you know this, it's fine if you don't. In the past, when they've done the hazardous waste collection, I know that they'll do it at a remote site, but they've also done the same thing the same day at the main site. Do you know if that's true this year?
I do not. We do not.
Okay.
But I can find out for you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Any other questions? Okay. We will now move to our scheduled presentations. The scheduled presentation for tonight is a quarterly update from the Virginia Department of Transportation, Mr. Andrew Hammond.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Drew Hammond with the Department of Transportation, the Saluda Residency Office. I'll point you to page 67 in your packet there. I'll run through this pretty quickly for you guys. Unless you have any questions, feel free to stop me throughout. First and foremost, construction projects, ones that are upcoming underneath the county's secondary 6-year plan. As a reminder, the board prioritized a number of different projects underneath of the secondary 6-year plan. One of the first ones being UPC 127745, which is the Route 615 sidewalk infill project. That runs from Dunstan Hall to Gloucester High School. We're in the process of actually starting survey on that particular project. We will be doing that this summer once school is out of session. Just for a reminder, construction on that particular project is slated for June of 2027. So that's where we are with that particular project. Second project that's on the secondary 6-year plan is Great Road or 1208, the pedestrian improvement project. That project is currently under preliminary engineering. We actually have a meeting scheduled for pre-award conference plan review tomorrow up at the district. So we are working towards completion of preliminary engineering, and then we will move to right-of-way acquisition. And the anticipated construction start date on that one is January of 2027. And then the third one that was on the secondary 6-year plan is Route 642 or Little England Road. So I just wanted to pass along that particular project, which has to deal with resurfacing Little England Road with plant mix asphalt, is actually on the 2026 resurfacing schedule, and we are set to complete that this summer. So just wanted to mention that with those three particular projects on the secondary 6-year plan. Construction projects outside of the secondary 6-year plan over the next 24 months. The big one there is 123889, which is the safety improvement project there at Route 17 and Fox First. And the shops, that was a smart scale project submitted in 2024. That one is a turnkey project, so it's being done by solely by a consultant. VDOT has a little bit of oversight in that particular project. The consultant is still working through preliminary engineering on that particular project. So we are making progress on that project also. Bridge projects within the next 24 months. 118288, which is the Route 17 northbound bridge replacement project over the Dragon Run. We have started work on that particular project with advanced tree clearing. We have not authorized construction on that yet. The department is in the process of obtaining its final environmental permits from the Department of Environmental Quality. So we need that construction general permit before we actually officially turn the contractor loose on that. So that is imminent. I have talked with the construction staff earlier today, and they told me that submittal's been submitted to DEQ. We're just waiting for them to process. So once that's done, you will see a number of things start to happen on that particular project. One of them being that one of the first things that we have to do is install what they call a weave, or basically take that traffic that's going northbound on 17, and we will move them over into the right side of the southbound lanes. And then back over. So that will be forthcoming also. Traffic engineering, Mr. McKnight did want me to pass along to the board that we have been working with traffic engineering at the district to take a look at Route 17 and 619 at Fiddler's Green, predominantly having to deal with the right turn arrow that's there. And it seems like we were able to find a solution to basically add an additional signage to the mast arm that would put up a right on red arrow after stop sign, so an approved sign through the manual on uniform traffic control devices, as well as an additional turning vehicles must yield to pedestrians. So doing those two things in combination with the right turn arrow will allow folks to stop at the right turn arrow, but then they can proceed to make a right turn, provided that there are no pedestrians in the crosswalk. So wanted to give a board an update on that. Underneath of the supervisor requests and updates, we've completed the review for Willis Road and the additional speed limit signage. That has been installed. We've taken care of that. The other thing that he wanted to pass along with respect to supervisor requests are Route 648, which is Horse Point Road. The department will be, as a request, the department will be doing ditching along Horse Point Road this summer, so we're working through environmental and the permitting that is required for us to be able to undertake that work. But that is on our maintenance schedule for this summer. Working with the Office of Planning and Zoning here over the past month, the land use program, which is the program that I predominantly work with. We've done 14 different site plan reviews, working with Ann and her staff. Our average turnaround time is 10.9 days, so less than the statutory 21-day time frame. So that staff is keeping pace with the work that Ann and her staff is sending us. Moving on to the next page with respect to maintenance operation highlights. I'm not going to read through all of that. Really, what I wanted to reiterate with that is that, as you're all well aware, we're coming out of the winter months. So we definitely spent a lot of time moving snow, ice, etc. here. So the staff in Gloucester has been very busy patching potholes across the county. And the other thing that they've really been spending a lot of time on is pulling shoulders and ditching, but also preparing roadways as we get ready to resurface those underneath of the 2026 resurfacing plan. The other thing that we've done is we've finished the first round of litter pickup on all of the primary highways. We do that after the winter every year in conjunction with basically putting down a growth inhibitor to help slow down the grass growing in the medians. We are scheduled to start our first round of primary mowing on June 1st. Ahead of that, we will do litter pickup, and then we have 2 subsequent rounds of primary mowing after the first one is completed. But just as soon as we finished the first round of primary mowing, typically within 30 days, around July 1st, we will start the first round of secondary mowing. So when we have 2 rounds of that scheduled in the county as well as the other counties throughout the residency, and we will do litter pickup on the secondaries before we do secondary mowing also. So with that, I'm going to stop and see if the board has any particular questions. If not.
Dr. Orth.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. Well, first of all, it's nice to meet you, and welcome to Gloucester. So a few things. So last year, there were 3 projects that I watched very carefully. One was Big Island Road, where there was considerable flooding, and there is still flooding down that area, but they did a wonderful job asphalting and also ditching the area. I haven't been down there recently, but my concern would be the regrowth of some of the vegetation into the culverts. I don't know what the policy would be of VDOT in dealing with the culvert area, because those culverts are absolutely necessary in getting the water both in and out of that area. So that's one project. The other was they fixed the culverts in the corduroy, the area that goes to the Captain Sinclair Landing. They paved that area. So it's raised the road a little bit, but it might be worthwhile for perhaps maybe you and I and maybe another board member to take a look at some of these areas, because these are the areas that flood quite regularly, and in particular the Sinclair property, which is now, public landing. People don't realize how bad the flooding gets on certain high tides. And the third one is, last year, VDOT was great in asphalting 3 small roads off Hickory Fork. Those people that live on there are so appreciative of the roads, so they're wonderful. But one of the neighbors commented to me, she said they want to keep the roads in good shape, but they've noticed that our lovely wiregrass infiltrates some of the side issues, and they didn't know who was responsible for dealing with the wiregrass that's actually eating along the edges of that road. Can VDOT spray, or would this be the responsibility maybe as someone taking a sprayer with some Roundup?
Is that wiregrass in the shoulders, I take it, is what they're referring to?
Yeah.
Generally,
And
that's
it should have-
something we would
It's eating
handle
into the
with.
edges of the asphalt. I mean, the people there just are so appreciative of you guys asphalting those 3 roads, because it hadn't been done for 20 years. And they really would like it to be maintained. And so that's just one of those small issues that I hate to see a wonderful job kind of go under a little bit. But anyway, it might be worthwhile sometime for perhaps you and I, because that was something I did with Lee. We went around and looked at some of the areas that flood really regularly, and sometimes there's no way out for some of the people, especially down in Guinea. So anyway, those are my 3.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Dr. Leming?
I'm going to call your attention to the intersection at Rangtang and Route 14.
Yes, sir.
The entrance ramp as you come off of Rangtang onto Route 14 headed towards the courthouse is terribly short and really inadequate. We've talked before about this, that VDOT might be able to extend that on-ramp. It's a prime site for accidents. We have a number of accidents at that intersection. People are coming out of Matthews and come around that curve, and although VDOT about a year or so ago put a warning light up because of the number of accidents that were there, that ramp is still really just woefully inadequate to come up to that 55 miles an hour. And we just like, I think, I've forgotten who told us, but somebody told us before that perhaps VDOT had it within its budget and its authority to extend that ramp.
So I think what you're talking about is an acceleration lane?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I've just used the wrong word. I apologize.
Nope, that's not a problem. And I know exactly what you're talking about, because we are in the process of working on a cost estimate for Mr. McKnight.
Good.
To be able to share that with the county, just so you could see, if we were to do one per the road design manual, what the cost would be for engineering and construction.
And the second thing is, just because of how important it is, I got an email today. You can expand on this because I'm not a VDOT representative, but it talks about the Fredericksburg 6-year improvement plan, and Gloucester is in the Fredericksburg 6-year plan, and that plan is going to have a public improvement meeting. How important those public improvement meetings really are, getting public input. Monday, April the 20th at Jepsum Alumni Executive Center at the University of Mary Washington in Fredericksburg. And I know that's a hike for us here to get up there, but I wanted that out on the airwaves, that if anybody was interested in going and being at the meeting and providing their public input to the 6-year plan in Fredericksburg on Monday, April the 20th, that's a wonderful opportunity to go and say, gosh, I like this, gosh, this is a problem, gosh, y'all are crazy, whatever you want to say. But thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions or comments from board members? I have one.
Yes, sir.
I had been talking with Mr. McKnight regarding the intersection of T.C. Walker and 17 Business North.
Yes, sir.
I played phone tag with him, and with him not being here tonight, can you just ask him to reach back out to me?
Certainly.
So he's probably rather hear from you than me anyway.
Okay, not a problem.
That'd be great.
What is going on there?
Well, it's an improvement project. However, my concern is if I was building a house where they are working on the improvements and did not put up a silt fence to protect that creek, I would be shut down. But because it is a state contract thing, there is no silt fence. And I'm just trying to get someone to tell me that the state is exempt from things that localities are, which I'm sure they are, but I just want someone to tell me. So-
You can feel free to call me if you'd like to.
Yep.
About that after
we
the
started.
meeting.
We started on that conversation, and he called me. It's probably been 4 or 5 days ago, and I called him back, and I hadn't heard. And I know you guys are sort of all over the place, but I'll reach back out too.
Yep, not a problem.
Okay.
All right.
Ms. Calloway, did you have something?
I wanted to make the board aware that the live stream is experiencing issues. I understand that Cox Cable is working, and we have staff heading to TC Walker to fix the issue now.
Okay. Are we able to record at the moment, though?
It is being recorded.
Should be, okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Anything else for Mr. Hammond? Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate your
Chairman.
time this evening.
You guys have a great evening. I appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we will move to our public comment period. Make a couple of announcements here. We do have a public hearing regarding, we have a public hearing later to consider an ordinance to allow creation of community development authorities. So if you want to speak to that, you might want to wait for that public hearing. If you are here to speak about the business licenses, suspension, and revocation, the public comment period is your time to speak unless you're a representative of one of the businesses. So please use this next segment to speak unless you're a representative of that. So with that, I will open up public comment period. When you come up, please state your name, your magisterial district, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Michael Hedrick, Ware District. Mr. Chairman, Board of Supervisors, Mr. Wilmot, Maria, Trish. I won't take long. You don't need the timer. It's a very brief statement that I have. This board has managed to make a real mess in just 3 months. Firing the county administrator reeks of pre-planning and revealed a level of arrogance I haven't experienced in my 82 years. What you did is absolutely shameless. But your arrogance neutralizes the burden of that shame. For it's only with a sense of humility and mature conscience that one can feel shame. The resentment generated by your actions will not dissipate, but will fester. The BOS has been diminished in the eyes of the public. So good luck in hiring a new county administrator, because serious candidates will research the functionality of this board and expect a full understanding of what your new direction really means. As a result, Carol's replacement won't be cheap. That person will require a handsome package and a significant parachute clause. Considering the other related costs, your action will add at least $200,000 to the already huge shortfall in the FY27 budget. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Board of Chairmen, Supervisors, law officers, and residents of Gloucester County. My name is Chad Plum. I'm a proud resident of Gloucester County, Belroy District. I've known the establishment in question of Rhino for 20 plus years when the family came from Egypt. I have found them to be the establishment very supportive and proud to be part of our community. Rhino provides a service to this area that brings in tax dollars. They have 3 establishments here, and they are just generously willing to help the county. I understand that they've gone through a melee. But with that being said, Rhino provides a service, like I said, opinion deserves the right to conduct business as usual. I'm asking for you guys to vote for Rhino to conduct business, is what I'm asking. The legalities that they face is no other than, i.e., the other gas stations in this county that do the same thing. There is a chain of custody. The product that they get in their stores, there's a chain of custody that is provided with a laboratory information that goes to that establishment. So why not go to the establishment that's supplying them, or why not go to the gas stations, i.e. gas stations in the community that are doing the same thing? If you take into the sense of the tax dollar that they bring, they're a great company. They're here to support our community. And I just ask you, Mr. Chairman, and the supervisors, please vote yes for them to come back into business. Otherwise, you're going to deal with the black market. The black market does not have the chain of custody just like the retail products do. So I ask you to please vote yes to put them back in business. Allow them to open. Not only are you bringing in tax dollars, there are plenty of people here that work for Rhino that get paid. I've been unemployed for 7 months. I spent $3,000 today just to get my driver's license and all the taxes that I had to pay for my personal property taxes, and I didn't have a job. And a job is required to help your household. And all I'm asking is please vote yes for Rhino. They're willing to work with this community. They're great people. I know Wally right over there. He's a great guy. And that's all I ask. Thank you and God bless you. Okay?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Mr. Wilmot, and Ms. Calloway. I'll do a little follow-up to what Mr. Hedrick was talking about. First, I want to personally and publicly thank Mr. Hutson.
Mr. Burek, can you state your name for the record?
Oh, Randy Burek in the Abingdon District.
Thank you, sir. We know who you are, but not everybody else does. Thank you.
Probably more people do too as well. All right. First, I want to personally and publicly thank Mr. Hutson, Dr. Orth, and Mr. Nicosia for standing up for what is right and just. Last week, reintroduced some really dark times in Gloucester that I hoped were way behind us. We are supposed to learn from our mistakes, not use them as our playbook. Second, I want to recognize the 3 new supervisors for what they are up against. I was on a board for 20 years, and it is not an easy task to get familiar with the protocols and the mechanics of a board. Then, let's add the learning of an existing budget at the line item level. Then add the learning then add the development of a new budget, again at the line item level, including numerous requests coming from all the county departments and agencies. Furthermore, the 3 new supervisors work 3 full-time jobs, and 2 were never on a board. Dr. Leming has been on a board, but not in Gloucester. This is a huge undertaking, and I want to thank all 3 of you for doing that. But I do have a question. I don't know how you can do all of this, overwhelming for most, and evaluate the highest level position of 40-year dedicated employee to determine her fate in 89 days is beyond me. But I think I do, because it cannot be done, or at least it can't be done correctly or thoroughly. 2 things could have happened. You began your meetings before your seat became available on January 1 to plan ahead. Maybe not illegal, but not right, and another play from the 2008 playbook. Or you blindly accepted the direction of another. I believe both occurred. Ms. Steele deserved better. Gloucester deserves better. My apologies to Ms. Steele. Thank you for the many years of dedicated service you provided this county. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Leon Arsenovic. I live in the Ware district. Good evening, Mr. Chriscoe and Vice Chair Mr. Nicosia and other members. I'm not going to reiterate what I have already stated in an email that I sent to you all, so you know how I feel about your actions last week. But I would like to make some statement about Ms. Steele, an employee that you let go. So I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude and appreciation to Ms. Steele for her 39 years of dedicated service to Gloucester County. Throughout her career, she demonstrated a sincere passion for improving the quality of life in this community. I mean, just look at the parks that we can all enjoy that weren't around when my family moved here in 1997. There's Beaver Dam Park, Abingdon and Ark Park, and Woodville Park. Rising through the ranks, she developed a strong and comprehensive understanding of how local government operates. Whether serving as the Director of Parks and Recreation or as the County Administrator, Ms. Steele consistently approached issues with fairness, carefully considering diverse perspectives before offering her thoughtful and measured opinions. Even during challenging times, she maintained a steady and composed demeanor. As a public servant, Ms. Steele has always been more than generous with her time, leaving no call, email, or text unanswered and never passing up an opportunity to engage with the civic or community group. Honest, knowledgeable, humble, and dedicated. I mean, what more could you want in an employee? She is a model employee who is highly, highly regarded in this community. So she deserved far better treatment than what she experienced at your hands last week. Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening. Mike McDaniel, probably Abingdon District, not sure. But I'm here for Rhino. For me, it's been there, going there since basically they've opened up. Very respectable people. They've done a lot of stuff for the community as far as they're just generous, nice, kind people. That said, I know that it's the community's responsibility to have what they want in their community, right? However, do we want to shut down small businesses so Jeff Bezos can buy another jet? Because what we're going to do is just order it, whatever we need from Amazon. It's the bottom line. Or do we keep people in business, keep people employed, give people jobs, something to do? Hold them accountable, absolutely. But let's not fire people. Let's not close small businesses down. We should have learned that lesson after COVID. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Pam Garner. I'm in the Abingdon District. And tonight I'm speaking because Gloucester County residents deserve answers. Not silence, not deflection, and not closed-door decision-making. The abrupt termination of County Administrator Carol Steele was not just a personnel action. It was a major disruption to the county operations, and it was carried out with a level of speed and secrecy that undermines public trust. Let's be clear, Ms. Steele served this county for decades. She rose through the ranks, earned the respect of her staff, and provided stability through multiple boards. She was also consistently present in the community, attending events, explaining the state of the county, and educating our residents about what we should expect from our county leadership when it comes to managing our hard-earned tax dollars. That level of transparency and accessibility mattered. And it is especially troubling that this action was taken when Ms. Steele was nearing retirement after a lifetime of service. Someone who has dedicated their career to this county should be allowed to transition with dignity and not be removed abruptly without a clear explanation to the public. Removing someone with that depth of institutional knowledge and community engagement is not a small matter. It requires a documented process, a transparent rationale, and a clear explanation to the taxpayers who fund this government. Instead, what we witnessed was a rushed decision made within weeks of new members taking office, members who could not possibly have completed a thorough review of her performance, county operations, or long-term strategic plans. That raises concerns and questions. Was this decision based on evidence, or was it a predetermined before anyone was sworn in? The public has a right to know, was there a performance evaluation? Were concerns documented? Was Ms. Steele given an opportunity to respond? And what safeguards will this board put in place to prevent major decisions from being made without transparent accountability? This is not about personalities, this is about governance. When a board acts without clear process, it sends a message that decisions are being driven by politics, not by the needs of the county. Gloucester residents expect and deserve a board that operates with integrity and consistency and respect for the established procedures. If the board wants to rebuild trust, it must start by explaining how this decision was made and by committing to a transparent professional process. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Jane Troxel. I'm in Abingdon District. I would like to know how much the sudden termination of Ms. Carol Steele's contract is going to cost the taxpayers of Gloucester County. In 2022, when her predecessor, Mr. Brent Fetters, resigned after a leave of absence, the board outsourced the search for a new county administrator, as is usual. The Board of Supervisors went over the new hire options and unanimously decided that acting County Administrator Steele was the best fit for the job. A brief online search indicates that finder's fees usually cost between 25% to 35% of the amount of the new hire's first year salary. Other counties in Virginia with similar populations pay amounts above and below what her salary was, and it can be inferred that hiring an experienced administrator to fill her shoes may be more expensive. This unexplained action led by new board membership is not good leadership. Sitting in seats of leadership and simultaneously kicking the legs out from under those same seats just doesn't make sense and bears a concerning resemblance to a time not too far past when another board welcomed newly elected members. The voters of Gloucester County deserve an explanation and an accounting of the costs of the vote to terminate the county administrator's contract. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Minton, and I'm going to say Harcum District over at the campground. I just wanted to speak on behalf of the Rhino Group, the family. They are family. I had the pleasure of meeting Mo and Waleed and their entire family about 6 years ago. They are the most kind-hearted, understanding, reasonable people I've ever had the pleasure to meet. They are very law-abiding. Anytime the laws have changed, they have been right on top of it. There's never been anything to question or to raise an eyebrow at as far as they're running the business and maintaining on an everyday level. I do ask, because all of these folks, all of the employees, they're family. And again, I'm going to reiterate what was said. They have families. These are their jobs. They've been a month without work. Everybody's trying to figure out how to make it day in and day out as it is. And you've got people that are trying to figure out life, not knowing what is going to come next. I'm asking that you all please reconsider and allow Rhino to open back up, understanding that all of the rules and all the laws that are governed by the products are followed. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to come forward for public comment? Ms. Cronin, do we have any emails or voicemails?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I'm first going to read the 2 comments that were submitted that I shared with the board at a previous meeting that were not read out. From Robert Tierschart from Abingdon. As a strong supporter of our current and fair BOS slate, I cannot believe that you would even consider adding to the SCVA amicus brief regarding the April vote on approving a temporary amendment to our Constitution. Even County Council Wilmot has basically stated that it would be a waste of time, resources, and county money. It would be better to educate our county citizens that this amendment doesn't affect or remove our county officials from making local decisions and local law that protect our great county. Thankfully, our BOS will always be outline of defense. All politics are local. Thank you for allowing me to express my opinions. From Bob Tierschart. From Eileen Kismarski from the Kersmarky from the Petsworth District. I am against Gloucester County Supervisors requesting our county attorney write an amicus brief to the SCVA. Mr. Wilmot has made it clear that it is a useless endeavor. I would like to point out that at the last BOS meeting, most of the supervisors did not even understand what an amicus brief was. Mr. Wilmot clearly explained what its purpose is and why he has nothing to add to inform the SCVA of the illegality of the vote to redistrict Virginia. Several supervisors simply stated they think the vote to redistrict was illegal. I would like those supervisors to state what evidence they have that this vote is illegal. Thinking it is illegal is not enough evidence to include in an amicus brief. Please do not waste Gloucester County resources, which can certainly be used elsewhere. I think it is evident why the supervisors think this vote is illegal. I think it is purely political. However, I am open to anyone on the BOS to prove me wrong. I'm certainly open to any new evidence our BOS may have that redistricting is illegal. Please do not, include the words I think. The SCVA will want true facts and evidence, and Mr. Wilmot has already stated there is nothing to add. I will close by adding that Donald Trump requested that Republican governors redistrict their states in advance of the November midterms so that more Republican seats can be added to Congress. Is this request also illegal? And this comment was submitted today from Jonathan Hargis in Gloucester Point. Good evening, members of the Gloucester Board of Supervisors. My name is Jonathan Hargis, and I reside in the Gloucester Point District. I'm writing to express concern regarding the recent termination of County Administrator Carol Steele. Ms. Steele has been a long-serving employee who, in my experience, demonstrated professionalism, respect, and a commitment to our community. It is concerning to many residents that her termination occurred without any prior communication or context shared with the public. I fully respect the need for confidentiality in personnel matters and understand that the county administrator serves at the pleasure of the board. However, given the significance of this role and the potential impact on county operations and finances, I believe the community would benefit from greater transparency. Specifically, it would be helpful for the board to provide any permissible clarification regarding this decision, as well as to communicate any financial implications to taxpayers resulting from this change. Additionally, the 4-3 vote suggests differing perspectives among board members, which further underscores the importance of clear communication. I appreciate your service to our community and respectfully request that you provide additional information to help maintain public trust and confidence. From Jonathan Hargis. And then I have one voicemail to play.
Thank you.
Cameron, if you can try that volume.
Injustice. This is Terry Byrne, Gloucester Point District, address 7890 Berkeley Drive, Gloucester Point, Virginia, 23062. The board's termination of Ms. Steele's contract is not just a mistake. It is a profound injustice. Ms. Steele is a seasoned public servant with decades of peerless experience and a stellar record. To terminate her contract behind closed doors without warning or due process was a cowardly maneuver designed to evade public accountability. Good governance relies on transparency, the very standard many of you campaigned on. Yet the new members of this board are displaying the same arrogant hubris as that of the newly elected board of 2009. With political shenanigans we thought we were done with. The scars of the past are being ripped open, and for what? Shame on you. This community deserves better. Ms. Steele deserves far better. Thank you.
Those are the only comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no more citizens coming up for the public comment, I will close the public comment period, and now we will go into our public hearing. Public hearing to consider an ordinance to allow creation of community development authorities. Mr. Wilmot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The materials associated with this matter commence on page 70 of your agenda packet. You have one public hearing tonight. That is public hearing to consider an ordinance whether to authorize the county to form CDAs. The board decided at its February 17, 2026 meeting to conduct a public hearing to consider whether to enact an ordinance authorizing the county to accept citizen petitions to form CDAs, Community Development Authorities. State law requires that in order for a locality in the Commonwealth to be authorized to consider the formation of CDAs, it must pass an ordinance conferring that authority upon itself. Such an ordinance must be accompanied by a public hearing to consider the ordinance, therefore the public hearing tonight. On page 71, you have the ordinance, which is the subject of tonight's public hearing for consideration. Community Development Authorities, or CDAs, are legal entities, but not political subdivisions of the Commonwealth, created by localities to allow public-private partnerships to be formed to finance and develop infrastructure and other improvements. CDAs are often called special tax districts in other states. A CDA, if formed, is authorized to finance, fund, establish, acquire, construct, equip, operate, and maintain, that's quite a lot, infrastructure improvements as set forth in an ordinance establishing the district to which a CDA pertains. The CDA does not directly levy taxes or assessments for the improvements it funds. Rather, a CDA relies on the locality, that's Gloucester County and the Board of Supervisors, creating the CDA to levy and collect annual special ad valorem real estate taxes on the property within the district. One of the impetuses, I'm not sure what the plural of impetus is, for this ordinance was the private roads in the Holly Beach subdivision. Localities in the Commonwealth are not allowed to directly fund improvement of private roads. They're private roads. We're not allowed to do that. One mechanism to do that would be the formation of a CDA to fund the improvement of private roads. But that's just one example. So tonight, Mr. Chair, you have in front of you an ordinance for consideration which does not actually create a CDA, but it allows you in the future to consider petitions by at least 51% of the property owners within a defined geographic area to consider the creation of a CDA for the purposes I just described. So what I suggest you do, Mr. Chair, is open the public hearing, listen to the public comment on this ordinance, and then vote on the ordinance. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Wilmot. At this point in time, I will open the public hearing for public comment regarding the ordinance to allow creation of CDAs. Okay. Ms. Cronin, were there any comments for the public hearing?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So, gentlemen, we have before us on page 71, I guess I should close the public hearing. Sorry about that. So before us, we now have an ordinance on page 71 to allow creation of CDAs.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Dr. Leming.
I move approval of the ordinance.
Is there a second? We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Hutson.
Ms. Wilmot, how small of an area can create a CDA?
Mr. Hudson, I do not believe there is a defined minimum geographic area.
So if, just going back to Holly Beach with a private road, if residents along a private road want to do it, would ask to do it, 51% of those people would have to vote on it. And would it be 51% of parcel owners or residents? And the reason I ask that is because you could have apartments or something like that along the dirt roads.
It would be 51% of the property owners residing within the district proposed to be within the CDA.
Okay. So it could possibly be down just abutting the roads.
It could be. I would advise against creating a CDA for an extremely small geographic area. That to me is,
Well,
it just.
This doesn't create a CDA, though.
I know, it doesn't. had more questions about it, though.
Yeah, I would urge that you would consider the formation of CDAs on not a huge geographic area, but at least a considerable one.
Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Leming.
Mr. Wilmot, is there also not an alternative standard or test which would be 51% of the value of a defined area?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Leming. Yes, it's either 51% of the property owners or 51% of the assessed value of the affected properties. It can be either.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Seeing none, Ms. Callaway, would you poll the board?
Dr. Leming.
Yes.
Mr. Hutson.
Yes.
Mr. Chriscoe.
Yes.
Mr. Nicosia.
Yes.
Ms. Hanson. Mr. Bonniville. Dr. Orth.
Very good. We will now move on to our regular agenda. The first item tonight on our regular agenda is a presentation and acceptance of a planned mural for the senior center on Main Street. Ms. Regine Biggers, Deputy County Administrator, and Ms. Suzanne Scott from the Cook Foundation, along with Michael Rosado, the artist. Ms. Biggers.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board. I'm just here to introduce Ms. Suzanne Scott from the Cook Foundation, who will give Mr. Rosado's bio. If you come up. I think we're all excited to present this to the board today.
Appreciate it. I'll put my glasses on so I can see what I'm saying. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Michael and I appreciate it. I'm delighted to be here to introduce our muralist, Michael Rosado. Mr. Rosado is an accomplished muralist who specializes in large-scale works for public spaces across the country. His projects have been commissioned by museums, institutions, and communities, with work featured at the National Museum of the Marine Corps, the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History, and the Virginia Military Institute, among others. Based in Cambridge, Maryland, he creates his murals on canvas in his studio and then installs them on site, ensuring quality and longevity. His work is also very familiar here in Gloucester. He created the T.C. Walker mural on Main Street, and he is widely recognized for creating murals that resonate with the communities they represent. I'm really pleased to present Michael Rosado to you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you for inviting me to present my mural tonight. I had an incredible time when I painted the last mural here in Gloucester. I paint murals all over the country, and this community was exceptional in their, not just their acceptance of me, but their support of me. And I got food, I got encouragement. It was a beautiful process, and I've not had the experience yet. And I want to thank you all, the community, as well as the people that make it happen here. Painting murals, I'm a storyteller, and there's nothing greater than to go into a community and tell their story. I'm not here to represent myself or my artistic style to tell your story. I'm here to tell your story in a realistic way that people can be educated from. And I firmly believe that, public art has a place, in the public space that tells history. And Gloucester has such an incredibly rich history, it's like ground zero for American history, from 350 years from the founding, of this country to the Native Americans all the way to the present day, and the economic impact that sustains this community. And my mural is going to talk to all of those stories, and I'm going to take you on a little journey. I've been asked, every time I go to a place, someone says, "What's your favorite mural? What's the favorite one you've ever painted?" And I say, I have two. I have the United States Marine Corps Museum, because I'm a military brat, and I love military history. And the second is Gloucester, for the reason I told you when I first stated here. Rarely do you come into a community that accepts you and has a pride in their story. And so when you paint their story, when they come to you on the street, they ask you questions, and you get to educate them. And I think murals should educate. And the murals I'm going to show you tonight are part of that process. And at the end of my presentation will be your mural, and I can discuss what's going to be in that mural. But I want you to see. You have a line drawing of the rendering or sketch that's going to be the mural. Sometimes it's hard to visualize what it's going to look like painted. So when I go into a city, there's always a wall. Every city has these incredible walls that say, "Hey, please tell my story." And this is a wall in Cheekateek, Virginia, that I did a sketch for. And this is much like your sketch, is that it's a line drawing. You don't really get a sense of depth, but it kind of alludes to the story that I want to tell. And this comes from when I listen to the community and I hear their story, and they wanted me to tell their history. And so from this sketch, you get a finished painting. And this is really the fun part of the process, is that it comes to life. It becomes dimensional, and people actually have, they love the blue crab. Some work the water. Some people are birders. There's the history of the cityscape. All this comes to life in a mural, and this one gets photographed all the time, and posters are sold. They're not only telling stories, but they become an economic, I'm saying economic powerhouse, but something that people come to see and then go to restaurants and buy posters, and they have an impact on a community. And this one here, this is kind of crazy too, because this one had a bunch of windows, and I was like, what kind of story can you tell on this? And the beauty of it is you tell this story of a man that came from this town that had an incredible history, T.C. Walker. And suddenly that building isn't just a building with a bunch of windows anymore. It now has a story to tell of a history of a man that contributed to this community and was a big part of empowering people. Lewis, Delaware hired me to tell their story, and this is very similar to the story I'm going to tell for you all, is that Lewis, Delaware has a rich history of American history, from being the first Dutch settlement in Maryland to having a vibrant community, an Indian community, and a waterman community, and an agrarian community. And so how do you tell those stories? Again, much like the sketch that you have, this is the sketch for them. It starts with the Native Americans, and boom, it comes to life. And I do realism, and I do it in a way that, people will come up and either want to look closer and say, wow, there's an Indian village I didn't see from afar. So murals have an impact up close and from afar. And I think that stimulates an interest to the viewer, to be able to get up close and see more. And you have an opportunity to tell the story. It's not just a mural. With a QR code, you can tell even more of a story. A documentary tells you the whole story if you watch a film, and you can get into the characters, and you can get into the development of an area. Murals have one chance. They're like a still in a documentary. And within that still, you have to create enough interest that people are going to want to see it and want to learn your story. And I think that's a very important part. And this is a lot like your story here. There's a nautical history. There's there's an African American history. There's a building of a community history, a boat building history. And the mural that I planned for this city tells all that story, and it's so rich. I can't wait to put something on this wall here, which is right down the street. And how does this wall, come alive? Right now, it's just a wall that you drive by every day. Eventually, it's going to be a wall that students can come to and learn the history of Gloucester, that a visitor can come to and learn the history of Gloucester. And what a rich, rich history. And when I researched it, I was like blown away. I didn't even know half the history of this part of Virginia. I knew T.C. Walker's history. I did a lot of studying about him and about his predicament here, but I had no idea that one of the largest Indian communities on the eastern seaboard was here with the Powhatan Indian tribe and the chief of the Powhatan. And I did know about Pocahontas because it was taught in the history books, but little did I know what an important role this chief had in the Indian culture of this area. And so on the left-hand side of the mural, you're going to see not just the chief and Pocahontas dressed in their, in their regalia that shows that their status, but also you're going to see behind them a journey into the Powhatan Nation and to the Indian way of life in a community. Education, someone's going to come up and learn a little bit about something more than just Pocahontas, saved John Smith's life. They're going to learn about a nation that had an impact on this area long before the European settlement. The daffodils, I never knew the daffodils that grew in my yard were from English women that sewed them into the hems of their skirts and brought them over so they could bring a part of England with them. It's going to tell that story. So when you have your daffodil festival and someone comes to see this mural, they're going to know that it's not just a pretty flower. It was really a part of people bringing a sense of home to their new home, and that that the flowers were and they're everywhere now. So that not only did they bring it here, but they spread what they loved and the beauty from their area to our area. Fantastic. Next to that, you see boats prepping to come over to America. And whenever you do a building, you have air-conditioned units, so smaller parts of the design will be behind those units. I did not know that the largest cavalry battle ever during the Revolutionary War was the Battle of the Hook here in Gloucester. Fantastic story, but it also has a certain dynamic quality to the story you're going to be able to tell. The horses are going to be charging. The French. Most history students probably don't know the French were involved, in the battle to stop the British from getting to the north. And that, there's a whole history lesson that can be told here, not only just in uniforms, not just in, the style of the battle, but in why the battle was important. And I love that when I paint murals is that, when kids come up and they learn something that they didn't know, and that they go away with the knowledge that, that hopefully enhances not their lives, but their understanding of the community that they live in. The surrender. Didn't know that the second, that final surrender of the Revolutionary War was also in Gloucester. Most people probably don't know that. Again, another rich part of storytelling going on here, and this is the surrender of the sword. That happened 1 hour after the big one down in Jamestown or in Yorktown. Another great part of the story. A lot of history isn't pretty, but a lot of history is history, and the Rosewell Plantation was the most stately. I'm probably telling things you already know, but this is what people don't know. It was one of the most beautiful and stately pieces of architecture in all of America at that time of the colonies, and it grew tobacco being the foundation of the economy of this town and of Virginia. And it was also harvested by indentured servants. It was harvested by enslaved peoples. A part of the story, but an important part of the story, and it should be told and doing it in a way that shows the hard work, of people that built an economy here. Not necessarily happy about it, but it was a part of your story and a part of the story that we've improved on and made better our society. Finally, the waterman story. Another rich history here of people working the water, and the old steamships that used to come up and down the river. And this shows two men harvesting oysters, African American and white man, working together in a community that built and sustained, the economy, or help to build the economy. I love telling these stories, and I love the fact that when you look at history and you look at our history, it's just a web of a lot of different people creating what becomes America. This American history, and Gloucester has it all. And having an opportunity to paint it here and make that wall come alive with realism and something that people are going to want to see. Hopefully people want to get photographed of, and maybe, spend money at the local shops. It does happen. I've worked enough 35 years of painting murals in communities to know that they have an impact on the economy as well. And I think that's a real positive for any community. And the privilege to paint it again in Gloucester is just, I want to thank you. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Rosado? Okay. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity as well.
Yeah. We have a decision to make here in a few minutes, but I just want to thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for your past work here in the county. I get to see it almost daily.
Well, it's a privilege and an honor, and I appreciate it as well.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
So with that, we have a resolution on page 115 to approve the mural design for the 2026 Arts Festival.
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Calloway, would you poll the board?
Mr. Hutson,
Yes.
Mr. Chriscoe,
Yes.
Mr. Nicosia,
Yes.
Ms. Hanson, Mr. Bonniville, Dr. Orth, Dr. Leming.
Absolutely, yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have a hearing to consider suspension and revocation of business licenses. Mr. Ted Wilmot, our county attorney, and Mr. Darrell Warren, Sheriff, Gloucester County.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you will recall, at your meeting of March 3rd, 2026, after having heard from Gloucester County Sheriff Warren, the board passed a motion to suspend the business licenses of 5 what are commonly known as vape shops, based upon information that each establishment had allegedly engaged in multiple criminal activities involving the possession and distribution of unlawful Schedule I and Schedule II substances. Notice was given to the 5 establishments of their business license suspension and of a hearing set for Tuesday tonight, April 7th, 2026, before the Board of Supervisors to consider the suspensions and possible revocations of the business licenses of the establishments involved. The board is asked to hear from Sheriff Warren and/or his representatives with reference to the asserted unlawful activities at the establishments, and then give the owners, operators of the affected businesses, I understand some of whom are here tonight, an opportunity to be heard and present any relevant evidence or information they may have to share regarding the matter. After having heard from the representatives of the establishments, I would ask that you then again to hear from Sheriff Warren if he has any information which may be relevant to the matter in response to what's been presented by the establishments and owners. Now, you'll notice that there are 4 businesses listed on your agenda sheet on page 118, which is where the agenda materials commence. There were 5 initially out of 6 which were allegedly involved in the possession and/or distribution of unlawful Schedule I or Schedule II substances. Only 4 are listed because only 4 have business licenses. The 5th one did not renew its business license, so it's hard to revoke something that doesn't exist. That's why they were not listed. However, I did speak with a legal representative from the 5th, and I believe that was Super Tobacco. So that's the 5th, and they were indicating they had notice of this proceeding and were intent upon being here tonight, so they know it. So you have the opportunity to hear from Sheriff Warren and the affected property owners and businesses tonight with reference to the business license suspensions and possible revocations. You have on page 119 of your agenda packet a draft resolution which will revoke the business licenses of the ones you determine, if you do, to revoke. Then on page 121, you have a draft resolution lifting the business license suspension of any or all of the affected businesses. You can list 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or all 5 in either resolution. You can pass one resolution with reference to some of the businesses and the other resolution with reference to the other. A resolution that I did not draft is a resolution continuing the suspension, but not lifting it or revoking it for one or more. So I didn't want to presume the outcome of tonight's proceedings. So with that very long-winded introduction, we have Sheriff Warren. Sheriff Warren.
Thank you very much. Members of the board, Mr. Wilmot, Ms. Callaway, thank you for the opportunity to speak here this evening. I'm joined here with the Sheriff's Office Property and Evidence Manager, Ms. Jamie Williams. I'm going to ask her to pass out some folders that contain some documents related to this situation. To refresh your memory, sometime around the spring of 2025, the Sheriff's Office started fielding complaints about the business activities at our local vape shops. The complaints ranged from vapes being sold to minors to potentially questionable items being sold. In the summer of 2025, I directed our narcotics investigators to launch an investigation into the business practices of all of our vape cigarette shops in the county. Since that time, investigators made several undercover purchases from each of these businesses. As you're most likely aware, it takes many months to get lab results back showing the chemical content of each product. However, based on the results that we had at the time, the Sheriff's Office, supplemented by members of the Tri-Rivers Drug Task Force, conducted a large-scale operation on March 3rd of this year, which involved the execution of 5 simultaneous search warrants at the following businesses: the Vault Vape and Hookah Shop located at 1720 George Washington Memorial Highway in Gloucester Point; Rhino Cigars and Vape, 1751 George Washington Memorial Highway, located in Gloucester Point Shopping Center; Rhino Cigars and Vapes, 7106 Hayes Shopping Court; Super Tobacco and Vape, which occupies 2 addresses, 4750 and 4752 George Washington Memorial Highway; and Rhino Tobacco and Vapes, 7479 Hargett Boulevard. Contrary to what some may believe, we are not here this evening because of marijuana. We are here because the businesses involved in this investigation have been and were continuing to sell items containing Schedule I substances to our citizens. In the Virginia State Code, not federal, the Virginia State Code, Schedule I controlled substances are defined under the Drug Control Act 54.1-3445 as drugs, substances, or chemicals with a high potential for abuse and no currently accepted medical use. They are considered the most dangerous, addictive, and hazardous substances, and their possession is classified as a Class 5 felony, punishable by up to 10 years in prison and a $2,500 fine. Some examples of narcotics containing Schedule I substances are heroin and LSD. I approached this board to act on Section 10-23 of the County Code, which states, any license issued pursuant to this chapter may be suspended or revoked by the assessing official or the Board of Supervisors for any of the following reasons. Section B, any reason which would have denied the issuance of the license. If you recall at the March 3rd meeting, I told you that we couldn't possibly have lab results back from our search warrants that we had done that day, but we believed with reasonable certainty that the item seized that day would in fact contain Schedule I substances. I can tell you this evening that we now have lab results from all 5 locations from the March 3rd operation that shows that they were continuing to sell products containing Schedule I substances. Although I support and welcome businesses to our county, I firmly believe that we shouldn't want businesses here that are selling poison to our citizens. I'll be happy to answer any questions of this board, but please understand and keep in mind that this is still an active investigation, and I don't want to jeopardize the good work that our investigators have done. So I will rest here and allow the others to speak.
Are there any questions for the sheriff before we? Yep, Ms. Hanson.
I just have one question. Is it a possibility that any of the things that were in these products that were sold and that you've tested could be falsely positive for heroin and not be heroin or a synthetic of it? Is that possible?
So it's not tested for heroin itself. It's tested for specific content, the chemicals contained in the product that was tested.
Right.
And any of those chemicals listed in that Drug Control Act, if they're contained within that product, it's going to be shown and tested as positive.
So there was heroin in it, and it's not a synthetic or something that could have popped that test positive for it.
It's not going to come back as heroin. Ms. Hanson, if you glance at that document I gave you, you'll see exactly what the lab report shows. And what you're going to see is it's going to specifically list, it won't say heroin. It's going to say, for example, it'll say candy bar found to contain 4-hydroxy-EPT Schedule 1.
Okay.
Or it'll say a gummy substance that contains salicin. Salicin is actually the actual Schedule 1 chemical that is a felony product to possess.
And it
let
acts
alone
like
sell.
heroin, you're saying? It's
Yes.
highly addictive? Okay,
Yes.
That's all.
It's a hallucinogen.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Dr. Leming.
Sheriff Warren, you likely know that I possess a federal drug enforcement action license, Schedules 2 through 6. I do not have authority for Schedule 1 drugs, as you're well aware. Do you know if any of the respondents possess a federal drug enforcement agency license?
I'm not aware of any. No, sir.
When they come up, I'll probably ask that question of each of them.
Okay.
Any other questions for the sheriff before we ask the business owners and their representatives to come forward?
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, Attorney Wilmot, county administrators. My name is Warren Tomlin. I represent Rhino as their legal representative. I appreciate the opportunity to be heard tonight. There are 3 stores for Rhino. One is at Gloucester Point, one is at the Hayes Shopping Court, and one is at the courthouse location on Hargett Boulevard. I do not represent, nor do I speak for any of the other stores. I know not anything of their operation and what their standards are. You have heard from 3 private citizens who have come forward to speak on behalf of Rhino. If I could take just a second, anyone who is here to support Rhino, would you stand up just very briefly? Okay, please have a seat quietly. I see the hands in the back as well. These individuals are here without solicitation. They came on their own volition. Some of them have been impacted by the board's decision on March 3rd. They have not earned the normal weekly wages that they earned. They've been placed in a position of not being able to pay their rent, not being able to pay their car payments, not being able to buy groceries, not being able to buy gas. They've been placed under a severe hardship with no notice, no opportunity to be heard, but they're here tonight to show the board that they are confident the board made a mistake when they made their decision on March 3rd. I'm going to just very briefly tell you about Rhino. The owners are U.S. citizens. They are not foreigners. They're not here on a green card. They are U.S. citizens entitled to the same rights and privileges that each of us in this room are entitled to. They didn't get that on March 3rd. Your action was taken without giving them those opportunities to be heard or to have notice. They continue to pay their income tax, their sales tax, their employee withholding tax. They can't pay the current sales tax that's going to come due at the end of the quarter because their bank accounts have been frozen at this point. They don't have the money to pay them. But up until now, they have paid them. They've been responsible community citizens and business people. You cannot ignore that. They don't sell any hemp-related product. You go into other vape shops or other locations, you'll see the CBD on the shelves. You'll see hemp-related products. The sale of marijuana is lawful under certain conditions. They don't sell it. They sell tobacco and cigars, and in the past have sold a product, I guess, referred to as mushrooms. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. They provide jobs for 18 to 20 employees. They don't operate the way a lot of these shops do, with just one employee who's there from morning to night. No control, no supervision, no way to determine what they're doing outside of their normal course of employment. Most importantly, Rhino requires the manufacturers and the distributors of their products to certify that they do not contain any unlawful ingredients. They rely on that manufacturer's certification, and they try to conduct a very lawful business. To show you the extent they go to in that regard, because of their concern, and I might point out, 6 years of operating, not one single violation of a sale to an underage person. Not one. You hear about that was one of the concerns to the sheriff, and we all appreciate the sheriff's efforts to protect the community, and he's doing what he needs to do for his job. But Rhino went to the extent that they put in extra security and procedures to prevent youths from being able to come to their trash disposal and pull out vapes that were just partially used. That's how dedicated they are to running a legitimate business. And I ask you that you take into account those factors along with the factor that they're U.S. citizens. I'm going to digress a little bit in a timeline and share with you. August 15th of 1974, this speaker walked into his first law school class at Wake Forest University at 8 o'clock in the morning. At 9 o'clock that morning, after 1 hour of Dr. Robert E. Lee berating several students that he made stand up to answer what was justice. The definition of justice is that body of rules and regulations that society agrees to live by and be governed by. That definition has been embedded in my feeble mind for 52 years now. That definition is important regarding this board's decisions and actions, and I ask you to remember it. On March the 3rd, this board took the unprecedented action in Gloucester County to suspend or revoke a business license, at least based on the information that I have, which goes back at least 42 years. Unprecedented to take that action and take property from a Gloucester citizen without due process. I gave you that definition of justice because embedded in it is the constitutional right to due process and notice. That's something that this board can't arbitrarily ignore. I will say this. I've watched the video from the March 3rd meeting probably 5 times, but I'll only say 4 just to make sure I'm not misrepresenting. Attorney Wilmot 6 times in the 23 minutes and 41 seconds of the meeting time that was allocated to this issue mentioned the words notice and due process as he tried to gently persuade the board to not act so rapidly. He even mentioned, where's the sense of urgency to not give the notice and the due process? 6 times he encouraged you to do that. The letters that were received by my client included the words suspension and revocation. Either way, there's a taking of their property from March the 3rd until it's restored, hopefully tonight. And I hope that will be the outcome of these comments. Again, we appreciate the efforts of the sheriff, but last meeting, March 3rd, just as he did tonight, he said, based on the results that we had at that time, what he didn't tell you is that the affidavit in support of the search warrants only recites one result at that point in time. And the county attorney, in one of his comments, said, I certainly would not advocate you taking an action of suspending a license based on one occurrence. That's in the video. Watch it. It's there. With all due respect to the sheriff, again tonight, he talks about Schedule 1 and those listed ingredients or drugs being unlawful. And then he says, in the March 3rd meeting, he said, they're heroin-like. They're LSD-like. He said heroin again tonight, and Ms. Hanson picked up on it. And she asked, are you saying these mushroom products have heroin in them? And you heard the answer was no. The test doesn't show heroin. It doesn't show it. Those words incite people. They create anxiety. They create a need to do something, even if it's wrong. Yeah. I don't think that's the procedure that this board should use to govern its decisions that impact the citizens of this county. We heard the word poisons again tonight, that these businesses are selling poisons. Well, let me ask you, is there anybody on this board who believes that an American manufactured pack of cigarettes, tobacco cigarettes, still in their cellophane wrap, stamped with the stamp proving that the tobacco taxes have been paid, does anybody believe that those cigarettes would contain a Schedule 1 or 2 drug or any other drug? Now, when I got out of law school in Winston-Salem after going to Wake Forest, I went to work for R.J. Reynolds Industries. Their major company subsidiary was RJR Tobacco. And I can tell you, I've been through Whitaker Park where they add Cairo syrup and aromatic flavorings and that type of thing to tobacco, but they don't put any illegal drugs in them. So why were 10 packs of cigarettes taken from one of these stores? Does it seem somewhat overreaching just from a common sense perspective? I ask you now to consider Code Section 1023 subdivision B, which says that, of course, the supervisors can suspend or revoke a license if there's something that would have prevented the license from having been issued to begin with. The problem with that is that code section doesn't call for or require notice and due process. That statute is unconstitutional. It cannot be lawfully enforced. You have to give due process, notice, opportunity to be heard. That's part of that definition of justice. It's the body of rules and regulations that society has agreed to live by and be governed by. At 37 minutes into the March 3rd meeting, Dr. Leming asked the question, isn't there some compromise Isn't there something we can do here? Because there's been discussion about the urgency of the matter versus the protection of citizens' rights. With all due respect, that question got laughed off. Watch the video. But Dr. Leming was right. There is a compromise. You don't have to take the property rights of this family that you've heard are good citizens. They're kind people. They're concerned. They do things by the book. You don't have to take their property rights. You can say, we're going to lift the suspension provided they don't have mushroom products or mushroom type products in their store. And they can continue to make a living, sell cigars, sell cigarettes, and pay the county the taxes that they're paying. $30,000 a week in tobacco sales, cigarette sales in just one store? The county's making money off of these legitimate sales that are there, and it shouldn't be swept under the rug. You know, it occurred to me, and my client takes credit for this. He mentioned, you know, when Bluebell ice cream was manufactured and distributed, but it was tainted, and Boar's Head meat products were prepared and distributed, and they were tainted. Nobody raced out and took the business license from Walmart or Kroger or Food Lion because they were selling those products. They went back to the manufacturer. My client stands ready to assist this board and the sheriff and his task force with whatever action needs to be taken against the manufacturers if they're mislabeling those products, whether it's intentional or unintentional. It matters not. It's their obligation, the manufacturer's obligation, to ensure that that labeling is appropriate and correct. So I ask you to take that into account. I'll be finished here quickly. I appreciate your patience with me. The wrongful taking, the violation of due process, cannot be undone. That violation occurred on March 3rd. What this board can do tonight is mitigate the damages from that decision. It can correct its path. Let's turn the Valdez around before it runs aground. Okay? That's an old reference. Maybe you remember. I was teaching at Washington State University when that occurred, so it's been a long time. So I ask for you in closing that someone make a motion to lift the suspension of the licenses of Rhino at all 3 locations. And I could use the full legal name, but you guys know, I'm sorry, the board knows what I'm talking about. Public comment has been made in favor of this family. I can assure you that I am amazed at the quality of people that I have met after being retained to represent them. I urge the board to consider my comments, consider its actions, consider the Constitution of the United States, and do what's right tonight and lift the suspension of these licenses. Thank you for your time.
I feel like that may be a little difficult to follow from my learned counsel over there. Good evening, Chairman Chriscoe, honorable members of the board, Attorney Wilmot. My name is Ahmed Khalil. I'm with the law firm of Kaufman and Knowles. I'm located at 11815 Fountain Way, Suite 400, Newport News, Virginia. Our firm represents S Tobacco 6 Inc., which is doing business as Super Tobacco and Vape. That's the store located at 4750 and 4752 George Washington Memorial Highway. I'm here to discuss the ongoing suspension of their business license and to urge the board to lift that suspension. I echo all of the former comments, in particular about the lack of notice provision and the violation of due process that's within Section 10-23 as written. And I think it's important to take a brief look at the background behind the license tax provisions that enable localities to implement this sort of ordinance and to regulate businesses, particularly in the field of taxation. The enabling statute for this 58.13700 is what permits localities to establish business license taxes and establish ordinances in connection with that. Now, importantly, that enabling statute does not include a suspension and revocation provision within it. Generally, the only permissible grounds to not issue a license would therefore need to come from the ordinances that are adapted in substantial conformity with that statute or any sort of implied powers to do so. I think it's also important to note that Section 10, Chapter 10 in the Gloucester Code of Ordinances, and including the entire code section, Chapter 37 of 58.1, which is based where that authority comes from, does not state any sort of condition in connection with the issuance of a license outside of monetary conditions as to taxes and very specific circumstances. For example, bail bondsmen requiring a state licensure before a license shall issue. The language is important here because, again, this is a property interest for the affected owners of these establishments. This is their livelihood. It's how they make a living, how they bring taxes to the localities, and how they benefit their own families. And for example, 58.13714, that's one of the conditions that can be put on a license or a requirement before it can be issued. Allows localities to require things like workers' comp coverage before issuing a business license to a contractor. In particular, this is important because the any reason which would have denied the issuance of a license is not targeted towards, for example, criminal activity. That's what 1023D is targeted towards, a conviction proving beyond a reasonable doubt that these localities or these, pardon my words, these corporations, these individuals committed some sort of act proving that. And it's particularly important because of the due process requirements for taking away a property right from an individual or a business. If that language was superfluous not to be included, there would be no need to include 1023D. If included in 1023B, you could simply take away a property right, the business license, the right to do business, just based on allegations. Nothing has been proven at this point. What we have are allegations. Now, this is also connected to part of the results and part of the problems that were pointed out with, for example, the search warrants and the lab results that came back. Now, in the search warrant itself, for example, and specifically the criminal code sections that they are alleging some of these businesses have violated, there is an intent requirement in there. And as prior learned counsel pointed out, my client relies on certifications from manufacturers, in particular when it relates to any of the legal hemp products that are sold, but also when it comes to labeling and other requirements on, for example, the mushroom products, that there are no illegal substances within them. Some of those products will have statements saying there are no Schedule I substances or that there is no psilocybin, for example, within those products. Now, the only alternative that this sort of action would give would essentially drive every single business to have to test every single product because, as shown in the search warrant, for example, specifically as to super tobacco, there were a couple of times where multiple products were seized for testing, and only one would return a potential positive result for whatever Schedule I substance they were looking for. And that's part of the problem here, where you put the onus on the business owner without any sort of due process to show that there was an intent to distribute, an intent to sell Schedule I substances. The only intent my clients have ever had was to, within the operation of the law, sell legal products within Virginia. Now, in some cases, that's hemp products with less than 0.3% THC. For what we colloquially call mushrooms, that may be products that have natural legal mushrooms that are not illegal in any state. And without any sort of due process, without any notice, revoking their licenses, without giving them the opportunity to make any sort of hearing or plea to the board, and without requiring, as 1023D does, a conviction of a felony, and conviction beyond a reasonable doubt, that's just not just. What is a business owner to do? The final thing that I'll state is there was no sort of discussion about a conditional lifting of the suspension. There was no discussion about what terms or what regulatory oversight we can have to ensure this doesn't occur again. Now, in the context of the THCA products that may be permitted within Virginia, the less than 0.3%, hemp enforcement does a great job of regulating that and has an approved list of manufacturers. For mushroom products, my client has no problem completely discontinuing any sort of mushroom product from being sold. But he did not, and they did not get that opportunity to speak to the board, to present that option, or even discuss it. All that was done was a revocation of a property interest without notice and without any sort of due process rights. I urge the board to reconsider, to lift the suspension of their business licenses, and I'm certain that the board will come to the right decision. I'm happy to answer any questions, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Khalil. I'll now open the questions up to the Board of Supervisors, to either one of the representatives of the, Mr. Wilmot?
Chair, is there a representative from the vault?
Oh, I do not know. Is there a representative? Yep. Sorry, sir.
Hey, that's fine. Hey, good evening, everyone. I apologize. We do have legal counsel. I did not realize that they were supposed to be present at this type of meeting. Okay. So I'll just make my comments brief, reiterating what the gentleman from Rhino and Super Tobacco said.
State your name, sir.
Oh, Chad Dixon.
Thank you,
the
Mr.
Chief Operating Officer for the Vault. So we've been operating in Gloucester for, I think, 13 or 14 years. Operated a business license the whole time. We pay our taxes, pay tobacco tax, the whole 9 yards. We pay our employees above board. Like, everything is legal from what our perspective. All of our products, like both gentlemen said, all the products have a QR code on all the products that show lab results. And all of the lab results that I have, I've got a binder there to show, but all of the lab results show that everything is above board. There's no Schedule I substances. There's no heroin. I know all due respect to the sheriff, that terminology is thrown out there, but all of the lab results show that everything is 100% above board. There's no Schedule I substances in these products. We also have a binder in every store that have the printed lab results. So if anybody comes in, any inspectors from the hemp enforcement agency or law enforcement come in, they can review that as well. The mention of selling to minors was also mentioned. We do not sell to minors. We have several protocols in place, both electronically and training with our employees, that we do not sell to anyone under 21. Even though some of the products in our stores can be sold to people under 21, we've just made it a blanket established policy that we don't sell to anyone under 21 for any products in our stores, just to avoid that, oh, you can buy this, so you can't buy that. So there's just no sales to anyone under 21, and we haven't had any violations of that in the past 10 years at least. So One of the things that I noticed about the search warrant upon reading it was they were looking for Schedule 1 substances, which what I'm sure keyed the search warrant to be approved. But they were looking for cache weapons was mentioned there. They were looking for stashes of money. I know there are certain locales where they bust vape shops that are operating illegally, operating without business licenses. There was one a few months ago in Newport News where they kicked the door down. They found like $60,000 in cash. They found automatic weapons. So that's not the establishment that we're running. We do everything legally. Everything's above board. And we take, when I go to shows, they have trade shows with all these products. I take very good care to make sure we're not buying anything that is illegal. I know that the sheriff had mentioned that they got the test results. I will reiterate what the gentleman just now said. On the search warrant, I think it was 7 products that were listed, and only one of them had the test results. Those test results were not provided to us, so we could bump them up against literally what we have for our test results to see if it's the same thing. I find it hard to believe that any of these products should have Schedule 1 substances in them. These are, at least for what we carry at the vault, these are companies that sell products nationwide. I go to these trade shows and pick up products, and they're selling literally to all 50 states. So I find it hard to believe that they would create a product that has Schedule 1 substances and they're distributing it all across America. That seems unlikely. But again, none of this was provided. Again, like both gentlemen said, the business license was suspended without giving us an opportunity to address these issues. The other issue that I would bring to your attention that concerned me was all of this was taken very hastily, and literally the door was kicked down to our establishment. If the sheriff or any law enforcement agency had any concerns about our business, a simple phone call to myself or anyone that works at our company would suffice. We'd be happy to sit down and go over any concerns people have with what products that we're selling. If there's products that we think are legal that we believe we can sell and the local law enforcement wants us to discontinue that, we've done that before. I sat down with the sheriff of Newport News a few months ago, and he asked us to discontinue selling several products that he thought was bad for the community. We adhered to that immediately. So all of these processes we put in place. We want to do business in Gloucester. Again, we pay our taxes. We do everything above board. We want to contribute to the community. So like I said, I apologize that our legal counsel wasn't here. I didn't have any prepared remarks, but yeah, we just want to do business, and our goal is not to harm the community or sell anything illegal. So,
good. Thank you, Mr. Dixon. And legal counsel wasn't needed, but
okay.
But thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Board members, are there any questions for Mr. Tomlin, Mr. Khalil, or Mr. Dixon? Dr. Leming.
Could I just ask the name of the second attorney? I missed it. I'm sorry.
Ahmed Khalil.
K-H-K. Thank you. I'm sorry. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Please, Dr. Leming.
I'm going to address this to Mr. Tomlin for a quick second, if that's all right. You can get up. Can't. I heard you say something about 52 years of law. You'd never heard the precedents where a board responsible for the public's protection summarily suspended a license without due process. I think I heard that. No, please tell me that's not what I heard.
That's not what you heard, Your Honor, or not what I intended to speak.
Further, I heard that you said that we did so without noticing the respondent.
That's correct.
Is there not precedent in Virginia law for summary suspension based on the duty to protect the public, simultaneously noticing the respondent of due process in set time?
I believe, first let me correct the misunderstanding regarding my statement. The statement I made about the unprecedented suspension was directly referring to Gloucester County, and that was upon research with the Commissioner of Revenue, who has been in that office for 42 years, who said, I have no recollection of this action having ever been taken in Gloucester County. So that was my intent.
But within the Commonwealth, Gloucester is a political subdivision of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Within the Commonwealth, is there not statutory code to provide for summary suspension while simultaneously noticing a licensee or respondent of a set period of time. I believe counsel suggested that if we did do a suspension, that we hold a hearing in a, I've forgotten your term, reasonable amount of time, and I think your definition of reasonable at that time was 30 days. I don't want to speak for counsel, but I think that's my memory. And so although there may not be precedence within this room or this county walls, clearly there is legal precedent in the Commonwealth of Virginia on a regular basis of a regulatory board summarily suspending a license of a licensee, simultaneously noticing that licensee of a hearing.
I don't have any personal knowledge of that, Dr.
I'll cite to you 54.1, 24.2401 of the Code of Virginia referencing the Board of Medicine, who holds my license. If a licensee of the board acts in danger to the public health, the board has an affirmative obligation to summarily suspend that license without due process, by the way, simultaneously noticing that respondent or licensee of a due process proceeding, typically in at least 30 days. So there is clear precedence within the Commonwealth to protect the public. That's the key message I'm trying to send here. Now, you also remember from reviewing the tape that I agreed with you that the licensees do have a property right. I said, I think, my memory is, I think I said, a property right is attached to their license. I may be misquoting myself, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. And you're also correct that within another venue, there are certainly the opportunity at this hearing, summary suspension, due notice to correct due process, that there are oftentimes relief from the suspension with terms and conditions.
I think that's very possible. The difference in my mind, Dr. Leming, is the urgent nature of whether or not, for example, you're hypothetically, I know you're family medicine, but let's say you're an OBGYN like the doctor in Chesapeake that now faces 100+ lawsuits for conducting hysterectomies that were not needed, okay? That, if you find that out, then it's urgent that you take some action. In this case, the county attorney even pointed out and several times said, or at least once or twice said, I don't know that I understand the need to take this action without giving that notice and due process first. So I don't think we had the exigent circumstances that allow, for example, if a medical doctor is performing unnecessary operations and there might be 5 scheduled for the next day, then that license might be suspended and then he gets a hearing or she gets a hearing. But in this case, it's a retail operation and you've heard all the factors. My clients, voiced the same things to me that you've heard from the other 2 locations or the other 2 businesses. They strive to sell only legitimate products. So that's the difference here, that it wasn't heroin, it wasn't LSD. Those terms excite and cause action to be taken that didn't need to be taken that very instant. Trust me, I've been a single dad for years and years and years. I got a 19-year-old daughter that's lived with me her whole life. I understand wanting to protect the teenagers of this county and the citizens of this county, regardless of age. But you can't trample on constitutional rights while you're doing it. And that's what I would ask you to consider.
Yes, Dr. Leming.
I'm going to say that as respectfully as I know because I don't want to offend people. And specifically, while I appreciate board counsel's position to provide legal counsel to the board in his opinion in certain matters, and his opinion carries great weight, the public safety burden sits on these 7 seats. And the material that we were presented with that night, we believed, I believe unanimously, posed an imminent threat to the public safety. I don't mean of 19-year-olds or children. I know the difference between heroin and LSD and Schedule I drugs by other names. I am intimately aware of that. I believe the board acted in good faith, on good basis on that evening. I believe they acted appropriately, and I believe that Mr. Wilmot provided good counsel to the board to make sure that we notice those respondents or licensees, that they would have some due process in 30 days. And you and I may agree to disagree on that point, but that in fact is in my heart, my belief. And if my constituents came to me and said, why did you do that? I believe I've laid that out.
And if I could briefly respond, I can't address whether everyone on this board who cast a vote in that unanimous vote believed that there was immediate danger that night based on what you had heard. I do think counsel gave you good advice. I think that, with all due respect, he tried his darndest to, in my mind, looking at the tape, to say, let's take a step back and look at this. You know, we have some opportunities here. We can do things. Had my client gotten notice ahead of time of March night and been here to present, they would have openly said, just like the last gentleman, we will gladly cease carrying products that the county doesn't want us to carry. We have a real good business. You sell $30,000 worth of cigarettes in 1 week in one store. You got a pretty good business going there. You don't have to take the risk of selling something illegal. So I would ask that you consider whether it was done in good faith or not is not an issue for today. It might not be an issue ever if no one challenges that March 3rd decision. But if you fix it tonight, then you show the good faith effort to keep businesses going in the county.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Dr. Leming.
Thank you, Doctor.
Mr. Talman, I'm still on you, although I'll look at Mr. Khalil and then I'll look back at Mr. Dixon, and maybe the three of you can collaborate. I sense that you're offering, or you're proffering, I'll use that word carefully, potentially proffering, that a resolution that the board might consider relief from the suspension with a term and condition that said products not be sold.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Do I have that sense? I'm just asking.
Yes, absolutely. I can speak very briefly. I do know. At least as far as my client is concerned, from what I've spoken to them, I know that they do not have an issue with entirely removing any mushroom products. I believe they may have an issue of removing all THC products if that would include products that are legal to sell in Virginia, ones that are under the 0.3% THC limit.
My comments were really not related to THC-containing products, quite frankly.
I understand.
But I appreciate the caveat.
Yes.
While you're still standing,
Yes.
Mr. Khalil, my understanding is that you represent Super Tobacco?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes,
And Super Tobacco at the moment had a license.
Yes.
And that license has subsequently expired, is that correct?
They have not been able to renew it.
When did that license expire?
My understanding is that it happened close to simultaneously with the events that have occurred.
I'm not an attorney. I don't even look like an attorney. But I have some knowledge, at least within the Board of Medicine, that if a licensee's license expires while they are under investigation or suspension, an order can be generated with respect to that license. Now, I don't know about the business world. I'm going to tell you that. I actually don't know that law. But I believe I heard Esquire Wilmot earlier say something like, because that license had expired, he didn't believe the board had authority to impose an order on a license that was expired. Is that close?
Well, I didn't think you could revoke a non-existent license. Your March 3rd, 2026 action served to suspend that license, and that order is still in effect. But I don't think you can revoke something that doesn't exist.
That really wasn't my... Thank you, I agree with you. But is it your understanding, Mr. Khalil, that if this board were to perhaps, hypothetically, find some common ground and provide relief from the suspension, that your client would be able to restore their license under the terms and conditions discussed, hypothetically?
Yes. And Dr. Leming, if I may, I did want to address one question that you had earlier, if we
Sir,
have
yes,
some
please.
time. In particular, as to the distinction between why there would be a due process difference when it comes to the Board of Medicine versus a business license decision. In both situations, they are protected property interests. However, the Virginia legislature has enabled the board by statute to be able to take that action. In this case, the only enabling provision for a business license ordinance is that tax license code section. It does not include any sort of revocation provision within it. There may be an implied power to revoke it, but it would necessarily have to come from the actual requirements of that code section that is then substantially adopted into the Code of Ordinances.
Mr. Chairman? Absolutely. I don't want to be argumentative because I'm not qualified to be argumentative. Are we not a Dillon state?
Yes.
And the Dillon rule provides both explicit and implicit powers, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So your comment is statutorily there is no explicit power, but there may be implicit.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Leming. Dr. Orth?
Okay, so there was a mention by the gentleman that said in Newport News, he was approached by the sheriff to remove a product. Is that, did I hear that correctly?
Yes, please. Come up to the microphone, Mr. Dixon. Mr. Dixon.
Okay, so what led to that? I mean, was there an issue in your store or other stores of products that seemed to be similar to what Sheriff Warren was talking about?
Yeah, it was just a proactive meeting with the sheriff to discuss any concerns he had with just our industry in general. No concerns with our store, and just the one thing out of that conversation that came was the certain product he had concerns were a hazard to the community, and without hesitation, we pulled the product.
But there were no testing
No,
of the products?
not at all.
Similar to what Sheriff Warren was talking
No
about?
tests whatsoever.
So of the products that Sheriff Warren has, what % of the products that you sell are we talking about here? I mean, you obviously sell, I've not been to your stores, so I don't smoke. So of the products that you sell, what % of the products are we talking about?
I don't know, because I don't know the exact products that were taken in the search warrant that was provided. It just said that it didn't say exactly what was purchased that was tested, and so I'd have to see what the actual products are to give you an exact percentage of sales.
And again,
if I were to, I could guess.
So, what we've heard is that there's a chain of custody that follows these products through. So, how does a product that has these requirements get dozens of chemicals that were detected by Sheriff Warren's? How does that happen?
I don't know. That's a question I would like to ask him myself. Like the products that we get, these are not things that people are doing in their basement. These are factories. They're sealed at a factory, shipped all over the. And I only say that because there are vape shops you can find out there where people sell things in plastic baggies and Ziploc baggies that look like they were made in somebody's refrigerator or somebody's basement. All of our products are professionally done. They come from factories. So. And it's got certificate of analysis from accredited labs that show what's in the product. So I'm not sure how that would get in there, to be honest with you. And just one more thing. So what I would want to look at is I would want to bump up the labs that the sheriff would provide showing that it has illegal substances, find my certificate of analysis and compare the two and see what the difference is. I'm not sure how that would happen.
Mr. Hutson.
When did you meet with Newport News sheriff or police officer? Police chief?
Fall of 2025, probably. Just approximate.
What items did he ask you not to remove?
Whipped cream chargers. It's a device that people, they're designed to make whipped cream, but they can be used to get high. I mean, for lack of a better layman's terms.
Do you sell them in Gloucester?
No. Oh, yes, we do. We do.
So one sheriff said to remove them, but you You removed them there, but not in Gloucester.
Correct. I don't want to lie to you.
You're fine. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? So I guess we will now bring back the sheriff and Ms. Williams.
I'm going to go back and look at the March 3rd meeting. I'm fairly confident that my comments that night were selling the equivalent to heroin. A simple Google search says common examples of Schedule I substances include heroin, LSD, and ecstasy. Those aren't my words. This piece of paper doesn't have a nutritional chart on it. And the reason it doesn't is because it's not meant for human consumption. Although many of the products that were seized that day, oddly enough, have nutritional charts. These owners and their representatives can claim that they didn't know what they were selling, but it's not my responsibility, it's theirs. Let's look at a few red flags with some of these products. Unlike Bluebell ice cream, these are not approved by the FDA, meaning they're not regulated, not for human consumption. These products, not all, but some of them say not for human consumption, but yet they have a variety of flavors, a nutritional guide, cute pictures that tell a story about how you will feel when using specific amounts of the products, and a dosing guide. Not for human consumption, but a dosing guide. You are educated people, so you don't need me to read to you the definition of dosing. Prices. Now, this is really what tells the story why they overlooked the red flags. I'll have her show you. A mushroom chocolate, cookies and cream candy bar. $32 for that candy bar. That was purchased at the Vault. Purchased at Rhino, 1751 George Washington Memorial Highway. High potency destroyer dots. Blue raspberry, $25 for four blue little tablets. Contains 4-hydroxy MET. Rhino Hayes Shopping Court, $27 for a pack of gummies. $27 for that. 4-hydroxy MET chemicals. On the back, not for human consumption. At the top, a dosing guide. Super tobacco. 10 Golden Missile pineapple gummies. $80. $80 for a box of gummies. Containing acetoxy dimethyltryptamine. Rhino, Hargett Boulevard. Muka Galactic Gummies, blue raspberry flavored. Contains not one but two separate Schedule I substances. $20. And Rhino didn't know, but right on the front of the package, there's a Schedule I substance written right on the package. 4-hydroxy dithyltryptamine. Written right on their package, but they didn't know. All of them not evaluated by the FDA. At the end of the day, in my opinion, this is all about money. I don't think there's any concern about addiction and the problems that arise out of it, because they won't have to deal with it. We will. These businesses have shown that they can't be trusted to monitor or oversee what they sell, and for these reasons, I would ask that you permanently revoke their license to operate in Gloucester. Thank you.
Any questions of Sheriff Warren before you? Any questions of Counsel Wilmot? Dr. Leming.
Sans a reference to the character of the business owner's motive. Would it serve the public safety if the sheriff and the business owners came to an agreement what they won't sell?
Typically, that's not what we would do. I mean, I'll get back to my last comment.
I understood the last comment. I understood. I have no further, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Ms. Hanson.
I was wondering could you please clarify how long this investigation has been going on?
I guess summer of 25.
So just that short period of time you found all of this?
Yes, there was a comment made initially, I believe it was by the gentleman with the vault, that there were several products tested. And that is correct. There were many products that were tested. When we first started this investigation, we didn't know what we were getting into. At that time, quite frankly, we were surprised that there were Schedule 1s in there. It's a little bit unheard of. You see a lot of the THC crossing the threshold of what's lawful and unlawful. And we probably went in there with the assumption that that was going on. And then when they found some of these other interesting products, we'll call it, with the prices they were charging, it was certainly a red flag for us.
Absolutely. No, thank you.
Any other questions of the sheriff? Mr. Dixon, please.
Okay. I hate to be combative. I don't like doing that. But again, referencing the product that the sheriff just went over with the lab results, I've got lab results from the company that's provided on their website. Their sales rep provide all these labs, and it says that these substances that he just listed are not detected. So I'm not really sure where the disconnect is. And I can provide all of this to you all.
Mr. Warren?
It's not specifically relevant to the item, Mr. Dixon, is
Yes,
it?
yes, sir.
Just raised, but I do have a comment.
Yes, please.
Mr. Chair, as I indicated in my introduction, you have two draft resolutions in front of you. One is to revoke the business licenses of one or more of the businesses you determine the business's license should be revoked. The other is a resolution lifting business license suspension. I've heard some discussion about the possibility of lifting the suspensions upon certain terms and conditions. So what I've done is I've taken the liberty, so unusual for me, to modify the draft resolution lifting the business license suspension for one or more of the establishments. And that resolution is on page 121 of your agenda packet. So it leaves blank if you decide to pass a version of that, a blank for the businesses for which you decide to lift the license suspensions. And so on page 122, the board has decided that it is appropriate to lift the business license suspensions for the following establishments. I've added a paragraph after the listing. My suggested language is, if you're not of a mind to revoke, lifting the suspensions on the condition that the products and the brands of those products, which have tested positive for Schedule 1 or 2 drugs, not be possessed or offered for sale by these establishments, comma, and that products as designated by the Gloucester County Sheriff be tested by an independent testing firm, comma, as approved by the sheriff, comma, for the presence of Schedule 2 or 1 or 2 drugs. So if you were to lift any of the suspensions, you would do it expressly contingent upon them be prohibiting from selling or offering for sale those products which have been determined through testing by the sheriff's office to contain Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 products, drugs, and the brands of those products, because what's in one product offered by a brand may very well be in another, and to submit to periodic testing by an independent firm as approved by the sheriff's office of their products for the presence of Schedule 1 or 2 drugs. I think that the attractiveness of this alternative is, if you're not of a mind to revoke, which you have the legal authority to do, let me be clear, you have the legal authority to revoke the business licenses of these establishments. They have been provided due process. I'm absolutely confident of that. So there's no legal infirmity here. But if you're not of a mind to revoke the business licenses of these establishments, and in many respects, they're probably very valued businesses, and you've heard from the electorate to that effect, and from the business owners, and from their attorneys, you could impose some reasonable conditions, which, if they're agreeable to the licensees, could help protect the citizens of Gloucester, and yet enable the continuation of the lawful portion of these businesses. Thank you.
Mr. Hutson.
Mr. Wilmot, who is legally able to sell Schedule 1 items?
I'm not sure of anyone, maybe
So, okay, what about Schedule 2?
doctors.
Okay, so why are we putting stipulations that, in what you just said about Schedule 1 or that they can't sell Schedule 1 or Schedule 2?
Well, they already can't do that.
They can't do it.
But the intent of my proposed amendment to your lifting the suspension is to prohibit them from selling these particular products, so they know it, which you're right, they already can't. But the brands of those products as well. So let's say Acme Corporation, to borrow one from the Roadrunner, is selling a product that has Schedule 1. That doesn't mean all Acme products have Schedule 1, but this would prohibit them from selling all of the Acme products because of the taint involved in that one product, and would also would require them to submit to testing of the products as designated by the sheriff, by an independent firm approved by the sheriff to that end, to see if there are any 1s or 2s. Does it guarantee that there won't be further sales of Schedule 1 or Schedule 2s? No, it doesn't. But it would provide for some grace and for some oversight in a continued operation of the business. And I'm not advocating either one. So revoke, lift, or lift pursuant to terms.
What's his name again? Mr. Dixon. Mr. Dixon, I guess one question I have for you is, your facility had items taken away, and through your inventory, you don't know what was taken away?
No, we do know what was taken away. As far as
I thought earlier you said you didn't know what was
tested and pinged for Schedule 1.
Okay, I misunderstood.
Narcotics. Yeah, I apologize. I don't know the specific things that were tested and pinged for Schedule 1 narcotics. Yeah, correct.
Sheriff Warren, I have a question for you, sir.
Sorry.
If I remember correctly, you said roughly 2,600 items.
2,400, I believe.
Okay. How many of them were similar between all the stores, or were they all separated different items through different stores? Or is that?
A lot of the same manufacturer, I believe, similar product, probably different flavors and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
I think, one of the problems is, and I'll just address Mr. Dixon while he's here, is like this product says right on the front of it, does not contain psilocybin or cannabinoids, but it contains psilocin. So it didn't have one product that you may have had it tested for, but it tested positive for a separate Schedule 1.
Okay.
Yeah, Ms. Hanson.
Sheriff Warren, as Mr. Wilmot has stated, if there would be an alternative agreement, we would be tying you to being an oversight over these businesses. Would that not be something that you are agreeable to? Or, you would basically have to go to these stores and get the products, test it, make sure we're doing good. Is that something that your office can do, has done?
I've never been asked to regulate a specific business. I've had to monitor their sales since the summer of last year for a different reason. I wouldn't have any idea how to reach out to an independent, trusted lab. One of the things that comes to mind when I hear Mr. Dixon speak about they had it specifically tested and it came back negative, I wonder what state that was in, number one. Because, obviously we're not the same as California. And number two, I wonder about, the authenticity of that lab itself. I read an article, it's probably been last year, about a lab in Carolina being shut down for giving false lab results. So I'll do whatever the board wishes. If I can, I don't.
You obviously you don't have a task force for this to go around to these stores unless you see something or hear something that might be of concern to you in this case.
Sure.
So, if we put a burdensome task on you in order for them to open back up, you would have to go in and have some kind of agreement and pick a couple products that, could be tested. You obviously can't pick all the products in the store. It seems very arduous and unnecessary to put that burden on you. It's my opinion on that.
Dr. Leming.
Mr. Chairman, I'm familiar with restoring licenses with terms and conditions. I have a question for Esquire Wilmot. I believe, and I didn't write it down, but I think what you heard was that the respondents would be responsible for selecting an independent testing firm satisfactory to the sheriff. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The sheriff would not be the person having the testing done. The independent firm's name and credentials would be submitted to the sheriff for his approval, and then the products would be tested by that firm. So I would hope that this iteration or resolution would not involve significant effort or be too onerous on the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office would be limited to, in my mind, and I'm not good at the law enforcement stuff, that's why I'm not a police officer or a sheriff, would be to vet the firm which is suggested by the establishments to do the testing, and for the sheriff to say, okay, I want these items tested by that firm. Understanding the sheriff retains his law enforcement authority to the full hilt in enforcing the laws of the Commonwealth. So the products which have tested positive may not be sold. The brands of those products may not be sold. The sheriff designates any or all products he wants tested by a firm the sheriff approves. The sheriff doesn't test them. So that was my iteration.
Yep, Mr. Dixon.
Okay, I just want to start off, I don't know if I affirmed this earlier, but we would be 100% willing to discontinue selling any products that have tested for this stuff that obviously we shouldn't be selling. The product that the sheriff just showed me, the company provided me lab results that say that psilocin was not detected in the product. So when I'm making purchasing decisions, I can only go based off the labs that they're providing me. I can't. It's not really feasible to test. Take a product, test it ourselves. Like that's not feasible to do that. Every company I go to buy from, I ask them for labs. They have labs. They provide them. They have them publicly listed on their websites. So that's what I can go on.
Yes, Ms. Hanson.
So, Mr. Dixon, while you might not have known the specific chemistry of those candies that you were selling, I mean, it's obvious in the description that it says it causes spiritual experience, do not operate a heavy machinery. I mean, did that not tip you off that maybe you might not sell that at all?
Well, I find it akin to alcohol.
But even if it's within legal bounds, I mean,
I don't want to sell anything illegal. I find it akin to alcohol. Alcohol lists all those same things that have effects. You shouldn't be operating a vehicle while under the influence. And the goal is not to sell anything illegal. So as long as the products don't have any illegal substances, we should be allowed to sell them.
and how do you vet that besides the packaging and testing that you get from these companies?
I mean, that is the vetting.
Oh, unfortunate.
Yeah, that is the vetting. If they're selling a product, they provide labs that show that they're not selling an illegal product. So,
of course.
Dr. Leming?
Mr. Chairman, the balance that I see before us is a balance between protection of the public and property rights of a business owner and of any business owner. And there are a lot of business owners in Gloucester County. I just hope the board is thoughtful and deliberative in our considerations. I think there is some middle ground that makes everybody mad and is probably the right thing to do.
Can I ask a question of the attorney for Rhino?
Mr. Tomlin.
Mr. Tomlin. Has Rhino or any of the stores that are currently owned under this group that were listed been asked by any other? How many stores do y'all have?
There are 3 in operation now, correct?
What about other localities? Are y'all a franchise?
No.
So what about the other Rhinos you see?
You don't have any ownership and interest in any other rhinos.
This locality, there's 3, there's 4. 3 that is open, 1 is not. We currently possess the legal right to open it, but we did not, because we made a phone call to the Commissioner of Revenue. They said, please do not.
So do you?
Respect it.
Let me repeat but I'm being very cautious because of the continuing comments about potential ongoing investigations.
I understand,
But what Waleed said was that they have a 4th license that they could open a store, but when the March 3rd raids occurred, then they called. They said, what do you want us to do? They were advised by the Commissioner of Revenue not to open, and so they haven't opened.
Do they have any stores other than the ones in Gloucester County, in any other localities?
So right off the back when they doesn't.
Can you come
Please come to the microphone.
All right.
Thank you.
And forgive me if I stop him at some point.
You're fine.
That's fine.
Okay.
So,
Rhino Tobacco.
yeah, Rhino Tobacco in Warsaw, Virginia.
Okay.
Rhino Tobacco in Vape.
In Warsaw?
Warsaw, Virginia.
Oh, thank you.
Have the sheriff has asked you to not sell any products there?
So I'm not the owner of Rhino Tobacco and Vape. I'm the owner of Rhino Cigar and Vape.
Okay.
Yeah, Rhino Tobacco and Vape owner is not here.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's one other location.
What in Warsaw? Yeah, that's it.
All
Nothing
right.
else.
But you don't have any others?
No.
Okay. I might suggest this as well, given the concern about the burden on the sheriff. maybe we have the business owners suggest 3 labs that they've found to be qualified, and the sheriff can look at those and choose which one of the 3 he wants. And then he doesn't feel he's stuck with whatever they're suggesting, so that it shows a greater cooperation by the business owner to provide that. And just for the record, and I'm not trying to be argumentative, but to save the sheriff some time, if he goes back and looks at the video from March 3rd, at 29 minutes and 25 seconds is when he says the products contain Schedule I drugs. Examples are heroin and LSD. Those are my notes from watching the video. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. Did I answer your question, sir?
Yes, but I think what Sheriff Warren was trying, I mean, Dr. Leming's a doctor. You've got 6 others up here that might not know what a Schedule I item is, and he was using, I believe, that he was using those as an example of what a Schedule I narcotic would be.
And I can't disagree with you. I don't know what his intent was, sir. I just know the effect of using the strongest or the most dangerous of the drugs in Schedule I is a whole lot different than using the lesser drug. And I'm not a doctor. Maybe they're all the same, Dr. Leming. But the reaction from the layperson was that was something, to the extent that it brought up Senator Joe McCarthy to me, and allegations of communism and how many people's lives were ruined as a result of unfounded comments and allegations. I'll leave it at that. So, any other questions for me?
Any other questions, comments? Dr. Leming?
I want to thank Sheriff Warren and the Gloucester County Sheriff's Department for their outstanding continued service to the county and protection of the public they've taken as their first and foremost obligation. And I think they've done that. They have done that in this case, and they will continue to do that. Nothing I'm about to propose wants to take away anything from that. On the other hand, small businesses are the backbone of our country and our community, and I think they have a property right attached to their license. I think a way to protect the public, honor the work of the Sheriff's Department, and respect the property rights attached to these individuals' businesses would be to adopt the motion proffered by Council Wilmot as a compromise.
Is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion, Mr. Chairman.
May I, Mr.
Yes,
Chair?
Mr. Watt.
I tweaked it a little bit. So.
Again?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What he said.
Dr. Leming knows my handwritten iterations.
Yes, sir.
So it would be the resolution appearing on page 121 of your agenda packet, resolution lifting business license suspension. I hear Dr. Leming, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong, to want to list all 5 of the establishments, even though 4 are listed in the iteration on page 121, to include the one that doesn't have a current license, but to include the 5th. So you would list the 5 on page 122 as the licenses being lifted, the suspensions being lifted. And then it would say, on the condition that the products, comma, and the brands of those products, comma, which have tested positive for Schedule I or II drugs, parenthetical, as designated by the Gloucester County Sheriff, end parenthetical, not be possessed or offered for sale by those establishments, comma, and that products as designated by the Gloucester County Sheriff be tested, comma, at the expense of the business establishments, comma, by an independent testing firm, comma, as approved by the sheriff, comma, for the presence of Schedule I or II drugs, period. And then the now therefore, period. So that the now therefore paragraph. So it makes it clear that they can't sell the products which have tested positive. They can't offer for sale any brands of those products. That the sheriff gets to designate any products in those stores which he determines need to be tested. Hopefully that won't include the cigarettes, although I quit smoking years ago. And that the testing has to be done by a firm, not one of three, one of a million that the sheriff has designated as qualifying as a qualified independent firm. And that test to be done at the expense of those establishments to ensure or to provide some assurance that they don't contain Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 drugs. So that's the reasoning. But I think I've given the precise verbiage of the proposed resolution.
Before there's a motion made, Mr. Nicosia has a question.
So we've seen I've heard a lot of information. The only question I have is something that hadn't come up yet. How much time does ownership or chief operating officer spend at these properties? Okay. Because what occurred to me is, if you're not spending quality time at these properties, and that resolution was to proceed, I would urge you, sir, and the owners of the other establishments to begin to spend more time in your establishments, making sure that your inventory is what you say it is. Your presence will be vital for the process, any process, to be successful. And I'm just wondering, as I've been sitting up here listening to your attorneys talk, Mr. Haynes talk for himself, but the nagging question to me is, how much time are you spending at these establishments to confidently know that the products that are coming in are the products that you bought?
I can only speak for myself, obviously, but I'm in every store that we have at least once a week, just depending on what we have from personnel, facilities issues, maybe more than once a week, but I'm in every store at least once a week, so that there's no issues with monitoring and making sure that what my direction is as far as products we sell is followed.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Board members? We are to a point where we have to make a decision, unless there's further questions or concerns.
Second it.
We have a motion, we have a second. Based on the resolution that has been adapted, starting on page 121, and I guess, Mr. Wilmot, would you like for me to read these stores in as well?
Yes, sir, that would be helpful.
So it would be The Vault at 1720 George Washington Memorial Highway, Rhino Tobacco and Vape LLC at 7479 Hargett Boulevard, Gloucester, Virginia, Rhino Cigars and Vape LLC at 1751 George Washington Memorial Highway at Gloucester Point, Virginia, Rhino Cigars and Vape LLC, 7106 Hayes Shopping Center, and I believe the last one is the Super Tobacco. Let me get to there. If it's here. I do not have their address. The Super Tobacco shop that was also impacted. I don't think I have their info.
Super Tobacco and Vape at 4750 and 4752 George Washington Memorial Highway.
Thank you, sir. So we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion among board members?
I got one more thing.
Yes, sir, Mr. Nicosia.
Gentleman and lady, if we pass this resolution, and just on I think it's due to the public, if we pass this resolution, this happens again, what happens?
would expect the sheriff to be here again to make us aware, or the actions will go in a different direction. And I'm sure we have the ability to answer that question tonight. We have a motion, we have a second. Oh, Dr. Leming.
Mr. Wilmot. Mr. Nicosia. I'm going to ask a legal question that I don't know. Is it possible to amend your motion with the caveat that, in essence, says a future violation will result in revocation?
Yes, sir. You could. Yes, sir. You could do that.
Could form the basis of.
But yes, sir. I hesitate to advocate for that because it already is true.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion before we call for the vote? Ms. Callaway, would you pull the board?
Mr. Chriscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Nicosia?
Yes.
Ms. Hanson? Mr. Bonniville? Dr. Orth? Dr. Leming? Mr. Hutson? Motion carries 5-2.
Okay. We are finished with this item. We're going to take a 5-minute recess, maybe a 10-minute recess. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. We are in our regular agenda, item C, a resolution approving participation in and authorizing execution of documents for the proposed settlement of opioid-related claims against certain opioid distributors, dispensers, collectively the 6 remnant defendants. Ted Wilmot, County Attorney. Esquire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The materials associated with this item commence on page 140 of your rather lengthy agenda packet. As you are aware, in order to participate in these multi-state opioid settlements, it's necessary for each participating jurisdiction to pass a resolution to opt into the settlement. The National Opioid Settlements Implementation Administrator for 6 remnant defendants has advised that a new national opioid settlement with 6 regional distributors/dispenser defendants, and I've listed them there, has been reached. The Commonwealth of Virginia has elected to participate in this settlement, and Gloucester County must opt in order to participate in the settlement. I have drafted a resolution for the county to participate in the proposed settlements of opioid-related claims against the 6 remnant defendants, and directing me to execute the documents necessary to effectuate the county's participation in the settlements. These settlements have been reached tentatively by the various states with distributors and manufacturers and retailers of opioid-based products based upon the enormous problem the country has confronted with reference to addiction and usage of these opioid products, causing a myriad of societal problems. Because of those problems and because of the perceived potential liabilities on behalf of these manufacturers and distributors, the various states and the manufacturers and distributors have reached these settlements, enabling localities and states to opt into these settlements, meaning they forego the right to pursue independent legal action against these companies, but they take advantage of monetary payments made to the jurisdictions to hopefully at least partially offset the damage that has been perceived to be caused. Now, the monies gleaned from these settlements may only be utilized for specific purposes, and they can't be used to balance your budget in general. They have to be used generally for remediating the problem, for educating the electorate and the citizens, for addressing the problems caused by these opioids. So you have on page 141, and you've elected to participate in multiple of these settlements in the past. You have on page 141 a draft resolution electing to opt into this settlement with the 6 remnant defendants.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion, questions, comments? Seeing none, Ms. Callaway, would you pull the board?
Mr. Nicosia.
Yes.
Ms. Hanson.
Yes.
Mr. Bonniville.
Yes.
Dr. Orth.
Yes.
Dr. Leming.
Yes.
Mr. Hutson.
Yes.
Mr. Chriscoe.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Next up, we are to item D, discussion and decision on disbandment of Utilities Advisory Committee. That'll be myself and Ms. Katie Legg, Director of Public Utilities. And I'll probably ask Dr. Orth as well to participate.
Good evening. So the Utility Advisory Committee was created in 2000 and should consist of 5 to 7 members. I've only been with the department since 2004, but in that time it started with 6 members, I believe, and since then 4 have rotated off with only 2 being appointed in its place. There have been times where it's been difficult to achieve a quorum, and in my tenure here, as we have uncovered the magnitude of issues that need to come before you, I started having conversations with Dr. Orth at the time as the board representative and administration about whether or not the committee is the most efficient use of getting this information to you all. I will say the existing members, they are strong advocates of the Public Utilities Department, but again, given the magnitude of the issues facing the department and the system and the infrastructure, I wonder if it would be better that I become a more regular presenter to the board and the board have a more direct input on the department.
Yes, and with my discussions with Dr. Orth, him and I were the only two members of the board to serve since we've been on the Utilities Advisory Committee. I ran into those problems, and I think I was on the board when we went from monthly meetings to quarterly meetings to try to make it easier to have a quorum. And I think currently with our state of utilities issues, problems, or chaos, if you might want to call it that, it would probably be handled better if this board operates as a pseudo Utilities Advisory Committee to ourselves so that we can get these things done and proceeding at a quicker rate in the near future.
Yeah, I would concur, and I'm not sure how many years I was on the Utilities Board, but it was more than I can remember. But a lot of the meetings, we never had a quorum. Mm-hmm. And then remember, we also went from members per district to just general members in general. I think, again, as you've commented, we're faced with enormous issues that I think the board needs to address directly, and I think having Ms. Lay come and present to us on a regular basis would be more appropriate until we really get things under hand.
Dr. Leming.
Esquire Wilmot, is there such a thing as, I'm in support of what you said, Ms. Lake. Is there such a thing as the board creating a service authority, pause, and then the board being that service authority?
I'm not sure. I don't want to answer out of school. I think,
and I think that's the next step we'll get to.
It would be dependent, at least in part, upon exactly what the purpose of the authority is, because as you're aware, the state code enables localities to create various kinds of authorities, which are generally or universally independent from the jurisdiction creating it itself. But a lot of it is tied into the specific purpose for which the authority is created, because that would dictate how it's created and who can be on it and what it does. So I can't give a blanket answer.
I'm old and getting older. I have some memory that that's a possibility where an authority could be created and the initial board members of that authority would be, in fact, the board themselves. And in order to convene those meetings, my recollection goes further that we would, for example, end a board meeting and convene the authority meeting simultaneously, just as an example of how it might function. But don't hold me to that, because that's Prevagen talking.
And I think it's a distinct possibility we'll head in that direction. At this point, it was just a matter of taking care of this and getting everything handled the way that we need to get it handled in a more direct manner and more timely manner. So I think that could be a discussion for a future date, and at some point in the next few months, hopefully we can direct Mr. Wilmot to do some proper preparation for us to have that discussion.
And I think we've already moved in this direction. You know, if you recall, over the last 3 or 4 years, there has been more involvement by the board in utilities than probably the previous 10. And so I think we've already moved in that direction of the board being much more actively involved in the utilities department per se. And, you know, the issues are large, but I think that we've been tackling them, and I think the plans that we have been hearing from Ms. Lake are appropriate for dealing with some of the major problems that we have. For example, you know, Main Street water.
So you do have a resolution on page 150, and just as an FYI, I would also be looking for direction on how often you would like to hear from me, whether it's work sessions every month to start, and that doesn't have to be decided tonight, but just, especially since we're in budget season, but just so that I have it on my calendar.
I mean, we've been hearing, or we have had weekly updates as part of the weekly updates from first Ms. Steele and now Ms. Callaway. So, those are helpful, especially because it seems like there's always something going on.
There is.
In utilities. So I think, those weekly updates really help us a lot. And, I've always enjoyed when I know there's an issue to go see what's really going on firsthand. So it's made me much more aware of the level of problem we have and the way these people approach the problem solving issue. So, yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Dr. Leming.
Move the resolution, weekly updates, included with the county administrator's weekly update, and then I'd like to see at least monthly, and more as you need it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I don't think I could agree any more with that. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Ms. Callaway, would you pull the board?
Ms. Hanson.
Yes.
Mr. Bonniville. Dr. Orth. Dr. Leming.
Yes.
Mr. Hutson.
Yes.
Mr. Chriscoe.
Yes.
Mr. Nicosia.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. It's probably the shortest time I've ever been up here.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to item E, we have discussion and decision on guiding principles between the Gloucester County Board of Supervisors and Gloucester Volunteer Fire and Rescue. Again, it'll be myself and Mr. Wilmot presenting. Is there anything you would like to say, Mr. Wilmot, before I say anything? Are you good?
I'm very good. Would you like to handle it, or I'll handle it?
I'll let you handle it.
All right.
Give you time to talk, because I know you're just about done, because you're not going to.
Running out of
You're not
voice.
going to say anything during county attorney item, so I'll get it
I
out of
haven't
you
had the
now.
whole meeting here, except. Well, no. The materials associated with this matter commence on page 154 of your agenda. As the board is painfully aware, the board and the fire department are moving, thankfully, towards the soon funding of and construction of a new fire station on Main Street. To that end, it's important to nail down some specifics with reference to the new fire station and ownership, among other things, of the property and the fire station. And in order to nail down those details and make it clear to everybody to be on the same page and to secure the necessary financing in the sum of $20-some million, it was important that we establish these details and agreements. And so to that end, a committee of two was appointed on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, Chairman Chriscoe and Dr. Leming, to meet with the fire department representatives to nail down these necessary details. As a result of those meetings and negotiations, some guiding principles were agreed upon, at least tentatively. And those guiding principles are attached to a draft resolution. The resolution commences on page 154, and the guiding principles are attached to it and incorporated by reference in it on page 155 and 156. Thanks go out to Dr. Leming and to Mr. Chriscoe and the Gloucester Volunteer Fire and Rescue Squad for reaching agreement on these principles. These principles were tentatively agreed upon by the board earlier, but there was no official resolution adopted by the board. In order to secure the financing and to memorialize these guiding principles, it was thought appropriate and perhaps necessary for the board to take official action upon them. So you have a draft resolution on 154 through 156, which adopts and approves those guiding principles.
And the fire department took action on these at their meeting week ago Monday, I believe is the correct date, or was it Tuesday? But they've already acted on these as well, so this would be, and approved them, yes. So there is a resolution on page 154.
I move the resolution, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further, yes?
Yeah,
Mr. Bonneville.
given my affiliation, I'll abstain from voting. What's UVFRS?
Yes, sir. Appreciate that. Are there any further questions, comments? Okay. Ms. Callaway, would you poll the board?
Dr. Orth.
Yes.
Dr. Leming.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hutson.
Yes.
Mr. Chriscoe.
Yes.
Mr. Nicosia.
Yes.
Ms. Hanson.
Yes.
Motion carries with 6 yes and 1 abstention.
Thank you. We will move now to our board appointments. we have before us a vacancy for the Board of Building Code Appeals. I see we actually have a couple people listed, so maybe we can do some outreach. Yes.
One is the staff recommendation.
Yep, we do have one staff recommended person listed, Mr. Matthew Clark. If anybody wants to make that motion, they can. We have a motion for Mr. Matthew Clark. Is there a second? Okay, we will now move to the Clean and Green Advisory Committee. We have one, Lauren Haney. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and we will move to the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. We have one vacancy in the Ware District. And then we have George Randy Burek in the Abingdon District asking for reappointment, John LaRue asking for reappointment in the Petsworth District, and Mr. Don Sanders in the Gloucester Point District asking for reappointment.
I'll sponsor Mr. LaRue.
I'll sponsor the other two.
Can I get a second for those? Okay. Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. We have a confirmed interest as of March 23rd. Anybody want to put forward Miss Ashley Winstead? I'm assuming it's a Miss Ashley Winstead.
Can I do it?
Yes, absolutely.
I'll move Ms. Winstead.
Okay. And Tourism Committee,
Jonna Pitchford.
oh. I'll make that motion. Is there a second for that one? All right, so we have motions and seconds for,
Mr. Chair,
yeah, Mr. Nicosia.
did we get Mr. Nash for Ware? In the,
We can, well,
Nick made the motion,
Yep.
and I'll second.
okay, we have a motion and a second there as well. So we have, wow, this might be a first. No further discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. Mr. Wilmot, County Attorney items.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. As you will recall, the members of the board voted to direct me to file a motion for leave to file an amicus brief in the Supreme Court of Virginia in the appeal of a lawsuit out of Tazewell County, which invalidated this upcoming special election for an out-of-cycle redistricting congressional districts in the Commonwealth. The Supreme Court of Virginia stayed the Tazewell Circuit Court's order invalidating that election and is allowing the election to proceed, not indicating whether they're going to ultimately invalidate the election or affirm it as being constitutional. So the lawsuit and its appeal continued. I indicated that I thought it wouldn't do much good to move for leave to file an amicus brief because I didn't think it would be granted. Well, I'm not always right, believe it or not. The court granted my motion. It must have been wonderfully drafted. They granted my motion to file an amicus brief on behalf of Gloucester County. So I drafted that brief, which I have sent to each of you electronically, believe it or not by homing pigeon or in writing. So you each should have received a draft of that brief. As I indicated when I transmitted or had transmitted that draft brief yesterday, I am planning on filing it tomorrow. The deadline is Monday, this coming Monday. I'm one of the few attorneys who does not wait for the last minute because it's a bad idea. You should never wait till the last minute to do anything. So I intend on filing that brief tomorrow morning, failing any directive to do otherwise. And that brief will be filed in support of the position of the appellees in that case, which would mean in support of invalidation of the election. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Wilmot? Dr. Leming?
It was just a beautiful document.
Yes, I would agree.
Cynthia did a good job.
Thank you, sir. Boards and commission report. Is there anything else from Mr. Wall?
Oh, no.
Are you done? Happy to be here. Nothing. No more questions for him. So we'll move on to board and commission reports. Seeing none. Supervisors discussion. There is no closed meeting. There is one item left on the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned.